It's going to be epic, isn't it? I mean, wow.
It is. And the weirdest thing is I've done a Watership Down podcast already.
Oh, right.
Because I did. I wrote down what it was called, but because I'm an idiot, I've turned off the lights in the front room, which are all smart lights, and I can't find my phone to turn them back on again. No. Because it's dark.
So what you're saying is the lights are smart, but you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start the podcast.
I mean, we always kick off with some light insults. It just,
yeah. Cron's cast, that's what I did. And you go along and you talk about a book that you love, and then you talk about your own stuff afterwards. And they're really in depth about the book. Which
well, I mean, it's a good one to go into depth with. I mean, my goodness, what a piece of work!
It is, and I've got my incredibly beaten up copy here, and I'm going to take a picture of it and WhatsApp it to Scott so he can put it in the chat.
Oh yes, I've got a massively dog-eared copy myself, which actually originally belonged to my mother, which has been passed down. She had it when she was at school.
That is mine. I wonder if it's the same version.
Oh, so cool if it's the same edition.
Yeah, hang on, Scott. I'm going to send it to you in the Writeopolis chat. Gallery. So yeah, I went on Cron's cast, and I'm not a particularly in-depth person, so it was really interesting. But I did realise while doing it that there's kind of an avian bird person in my Boneships novels. And I realised it was me channeling Keehaw.
It was a Keehaw. Brilliance.
So that was quite a good thing to find out. Have you got that picture, Scott?
I am. I'm doing it right now.
He's doing it right now. So let's find out. Oh, we can hear you now, Scott.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, there it is.
Where's it going?
In the chat.
Can you see the chat?
Let's have a look. Where am I? Here we are. Let's have a look. Oh, no, I haven't got it for some reason.
Oh.
I don't know why that's...
Well, let's blame Scott.
No, it's in the chat. It's surprising that you can't see it.
Let's have a look.
Definitely be able to see the chat.
It's got a picture of
Oh, yes, there we are. I've got it. Yes, that's the same edition. That's pure condensed nostalgia, that is. That's childhood. It's like seeing an old copy of the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, and it's falling to bits is my version, because it is.
Yeah, me too. Actually, mine's got like tape all over it, and it's not. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look healthy.
No, but it's a beautiful thing, and I love it. And I've brought it particularly for the first line, which I think is one of the greatest first lines, especially if you read the book in a kind of this doesn't bode well. And for listeners who don't have the book in front of them, can I get to the page without my copy actually falling apart?
Without it actually falling to bits, yeah.
Yeah. The first line is really, really short. It's the primroses were over.
Yeah. Oh. It's evocative, it's seasonal, and it tells you so much about what this book is actually about.
Yeah, you're straight into nature, and you're straight into things change, and things have a cycle to them.
It's one of those really strange books. I mean, it's ostensibly generally claimed to be a children's book, but which deals with incredibly powerful human subjects like loss, for example. Yeah. That reminds me a lot of sort of Raymond Briggs's work in that regard.
Yeah. Richard Adams was quite against the idea it was anything but a kid's book.
Oh yes. He really hated he was a bit Tolkien-esque about it. You know, whenever Tolkien was told that the Lord of the Rings, does it mean this? Does it mean that? He was, no. It's a story about hobbits and a fantasy ring. Yeah, Richard Adams is kind of like that. You know, he's sort of no. There's no religious allegory. It's not the rabbit version of the Odyssey. It's not that. No. Fiverr is not Christ, all right? Fiverr's not a Messiah. It doesn't work like that. It's about rabbits.
Yeah, it's a book about rabbits for kids. And if Richard Adams was here, I would just have one question for it, which is, why are you prefacing every chapter.
Yeah, well, this is the problem, right?
With really obscure bits of ancient text.
Yeah, which are redolent of the oral traditions that this book clearly is inspired by, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If you like sort of ancient oral cycles like Greek mythology, you will love this book because it's that with rabbits.
Yeah, and I wonder if he just knew, and it was never a book for kids at all, and he knows that, but he knew that by saying that it was going to infuriate people, and they were going to try and explain.
Maybe that's it. I mean, I always get the impression with like Tolkien, he was absolutely earnest about it, and it's just unconscious. You know, the allegories within the Lord of the Rings are just unconscious. But with this one, they're too sharp. They're too on the nose, as it were.
Yeah, and it's a book that. Important question: have you finished it, Scott?
You can talk without worrying about spoilers. I've nearly finished it.
Yeah.
I've nearly finished it, and don't worry, I remember the film. I know what happens. It's okay.
Cool. And the 1970s film, the cartoon.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
I did get through 400, nearly 300 pages of it today, and I'm very close to the end.
Well, for a children's book, it's really big, isn't it? It's a weighty piece of work.
Yeah, and this version I've got, the text is tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny texted up. Print books like that.
Doesn't feel like it's a whopper. It's so, technically speaking, it's one of, I think I said to Kit when I started rereading, because I hadn't read it for such a long time, I started rereading it and I read like about a quarter of it in one go, and I was like, this is one of the most technically beautiful pieces of writing I've probably ever come across.
Yeah, and what I love about it is it doesn't take prisoners in just dropping you into the rabbit's world.
Oh God, no! It's so sincere. It treats the rabbits. It's wonderful, actually, in that regard. That it treats the rabbits as though they are their own hermetically sealed culture, and it's beautiful. And it treats them with all sincerity, as though they are rabbits. Therefore, they're not. Obviously, they have human characteristics because it's a story written by a human being, and therefore will always have human characteristics. But it doesn't shy away from making them almost alien in certain respects in the way they respond to things. It even talks about it. When it talks about the way rabbits deal with grief and loss. I just love that stuff. I love that stuff. And it's not meandering. It's not sort of a tangent. It really does need to do that because the story has so much loss in it.
And the stories of, everybody says it differently. I will say Ella Rare.
Ella Clara.
Yeah, that's probably right, actually.
Ella Clara.
Yeah, I can see a rabbit's mouth saying that.
It's like saying Cthulhu, isn't it?
Yeah. But the whole Prince with 1,000 Enemies.
Oh my God, I hear that.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, that concept, the way it's worded, and it just washes over me. I just think it's beautiful. The name, for a start, is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Adams names things in an enviable way. They feel like real names from like an actual mythic cycle. That's what's so brilliant. El Khairar is probably my favorite. I think it's gorgeous. It sounds beautiful. It looks beautiful on the page. And to say it feels good. It's a great word on the tongue.
And there's a real timelessness to it in that it feels, because I know it's 1950s, was it the original version? But it feels 1930s, but it also feels it could be now because the rabbit's understanding of our world.
Well, also,
it's a rabbit level.
It's not like an entirely environmental book, but there is obviously an environmental theme to it. There is a commentary upon nature and British wildlands in it, and of course, that's more relevant than ever.
And I think it very much led into my first loving of the British landscape. Of that. It's not Yorkshire. That's its one big fault. It wasn't, but nothing's perfect. But you get that feeling on the Yorkshire moors, and that was like, this is Hazel's places.
Well, one of the more beautiful things about the book, and certainly one of the more harrowing things, I imagine, certainly for children readers, is that the way it treats humanity. I mean, humanity's fairly irredeemable in this book, to be honest. Humanity is the apocalypse, you know?
Yeah.
All of the great horror in this book is largely wrought by human beings. And, obviously you have the internal scuffles with the rabbits and whatnot, and the conflicting ideologies of the different Warrens and so on. But
you could even argue that is humanity, because Wound War is not a rabbit.
No,
he does not act like a rabbit. That's the whole thing that's terrifying to them about him. He doesn't do rabbit things,
and that's also true of Cowslip's Warren, of course, as well.
Yeah,
it's something I found really interesting this time round. Like Fiver, he's often treated as like, it's the whole thing of like, what if Cassandra was believed? So he has the visions, then he warns the others. But reading it this time, it feels slightly different to me. That is an element, definitely. But it also feels like he has a slightly more messianic quality about him. So when characters don't adhere to him, and when they actively reject him, like Bigwig does outside of Cowslip's Warren, they get punished immediately. Like immediately. It's like divine. It's like divine punishment coming down on them. Bigwig totally rejects Fiver, rejects his visions. Next instant is caught in a snare. Next instant is punished.
And it's weird that Fiver has no like allegorical version of him, because Ella is definitely Hazel. You're left in no real doubt of that he is like an avatar. Well, not Avatar, but that's who you're comparing him to. He's the clever rabbit. But there isn't one for Fiver. Fiver is kind of
his own thing. Yeah, he's almost. I mean, if he's anything, he's the avatar of Frith, right?
Yeah.
He's the character that's having the divine visions and the divine revelations. That's something that got to me this time as well. He's kind of fundamentalist, this Fiver. Yes. When they reach Cowslip's Warren, he has he is totally unshakable. He's like this little rabbity bullet of truth, isn't he? That's unwavering.
I want that on a t-shirt. Rabbity bullet of truth.
A rabbity bullet of truth.
What a brilliant phrase. I'm curious if everyone's first experience of it is, rather than the book, is the 1970s film.
Yeah, I mean, I had the book, but my first experience was the film. It was the film. When it aired on British television, it was amazing.
Yeah. And of course, Bright Eyes, which was number one for, I think, between 12 and 15 years.
Yeah. But it has promised when he turns up, he's going to give us a chorus.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, he might not be aware of that.
Right, okay.
He totally is, and just pick him up if he doesn't. He'll love that.
The cartoon is amazing. It's a beautiful adaptation. It's very, it's like, it cleaves as close to the book as any adaptation I've ever seen.
Yeah, did you see the more modern one, which was all right?
It's okay, actually. I was watching that this afternoon, and I feel that it's unfairly maligned a lot of the time. Okay, the animation style they chose was not that great. It's CG for television, it's BBC CG, and it's just not that great. And it's not going to stand the test of time like the cell animation one is.
No.
But, the writing's good. The characters are good. The acting is good. It's actually a very, very fair adaptation. And I feel that it tends to get unfairly maligned because people have such a powerful memory, particularly those of us who were like children in the 1980s, 1970s. We have such a powerful memory of that cartoon. That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? On the internet, the whole thing about Watership Down is that it's compared to things like Plague Dogs and whatnot. It's gonna traumatize you. It's a cartoon that's ostensibly aimed at children that is gonna give them nightmares and traumatize them for life. And that's kind of a shame because it's not. Yeah, it is a very dark cartoon.
When I was 7, my school was showing me things like Apaches.
Right.
So,
no child should have to watch The Shadows. That's just wrong.
No. Do you not know the one I mean? The public information film in which all these children die horrific deaths in a farmyard.
Oh yeah, and that's
including the girl who drinks bleach and it just cuts to her bedroom at night and there's just screaming. They showed us that. They showed us that in primary school. I mean, compared to that, Watership Down
right.
was
The spirit of dark waters, that kind of thing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I will never ever throw my frisbee into an electrical substation.
No.
Don't do that. Don't do that. No.
And then, of course, I mean, there's all the other stuff as well. I mean, like, if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s, then you were around media all the time. You're around television, you're around VHS. You saw loads of worse things than Watership Down by that point, you know?
The electrical sort of public information films about how dangerous it was and painful. I've got to say my experience of those because my dad was an electrician. I watched those as a kid, like wild eyes, and then turning around to my dad and going, is it really that bad? And he just looked at me and he went, yeah, if you stick your fingers in a plug, it will cook you alive and it will hurt.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good to know. It's good information to know, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that will prevent you from doing it.
Yeah, I never stuck my fingers in a plug. I did get somebody at my school to put a wire in a plug and blew the school's generator, though. And they got suspended for 2 weeks, and no one believed it was my fault.
Awesome. Yeah. But no, I feel like sometimes like the 1970s cartoon is itself unfairly maligned because that's all people seem to say about it. That it was traumatic, that it's this really dark cartoon, which it is, but it's beautiful as well. I mean, it's an absolutely stunning piece of work. I was watching it several days ago in preparation for this, and there's some amazing animation in it. I mean, really experimental stuff. There's a sequence where they're all underground in Cowslip's warren, and you're getting this perspective where you've got central hall that's held up by the roots, and all the rabbits are gathered around like a pile of a flare of food, and the camera is inside the outer tunnels, and it's panning around from tunnel to tunnel, which is obviously it's an illusion of the animation, but it's amazing. I was watching, I was going, this is fantastic.
Well, just the stuff when it segs into the El Herrera stuff, and it becomes dreamlike, and something very can I say Aboriginal?
No, I know what you mean. There is something about the animation style, which is it's almost like cave drawings on a wall,
rock carvings and stuff like that. And
it's slightly prehistoric. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Primal,
It's very primal, and that talks to you about it. But I think as well as I think there's a massive misreading of the end of it as sad,
right?
Because it's not. It is not a sad end, because Hazel is, in their world, he has done everything a rabbit can do.
To the nth degree, right? To the nth degree, he has become a legend. I mean, the other characters talk about this, don't they? Both in the book and in the cartoon, that he and Fiverr will basically go down in rabbit legend. They'll become myths like El Herrera or the other characters. It's really cool.
And that's what we get at the end, is that there is only one step further for him to go, and that is to join the Owsler of El Herrera. And
I love that so much. I love that so much. The ending is gorgeous. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
The fact that he's lived a life and he's done as you say, everything a rabbit could possibly do to the very best of his ability. Yeah. And then he dies of a ripe old age, and it's beautiful in the cartoon. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful in the cartoon, where he just sort of lies down and then gets up again.
He's just said to him, "You're tired now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so it's gorgeous. It's absolutely. I mean, but it's wonderfully ambiguous as well. What I love about it is it's like Raymond Briggs. It's like the Snowman and whatnot. It's treating its audience with an awesome amount of respect. It's respecting them as emotionally complex beings who can understand that this is simultaneously a sad moment and a celebratory one.
Yeah, and it's hugely emotional, but not as sad. It's not. Oh, he's dead. That's not what you're reading into that. No.
No, not at all. This is
say, "Oh, it's sad he dies." No,
it's like it's an emblem of a life well lived, isn't it? Yeah. That's what it is, of being able to die in peace and a kind of contentment.
A job done.
It's a harsh lesson. I mean, that's a dark lesson to put in a children's book. That's a really dark lesson, but it's a really beautiful one.
Yeah, I think it stuck with me as well. I think that my reaction to to death a lot of the time is had they lived, and that is you should find the joy in that they lived and what they did, and them not being there is going to hurt. But had they lived is the big question for me all the time.
I mean, you don't get so much of it in the cartoon because it doesn't really go into detail about like what comes after, but the book does. The book goes into detail about how the Ephrathar Warren, which Woundwort controlled, is now its own Warren and has a much more reasonable leader who is like in contact with Hazel.
Well,
and there's another one as well.
In between, isn't there?
They have a sort of joint Warren they set up in between.
That's right.
Yeah, an
so it's
overspill.
all right. So it keeps going. The legacy is going to be forever.
Yeah. We should, actually, we've jumped into this, and we should really have given the listener who is unfamiliar with Watership Down a quick rundown of the plot, which I will do now, and then Kit can edit it out and put it at the beginning. But the basic plot of Watership Down is that some rabbits go somewhere, and that's it.
Good work.
That's actually really succinct and kind of true.
Yeah, good work.
Some rabbits up sticks and go somewhere. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and shit happens.
Yeah, along the way, right?
Yeah. It's a classic plot. It's also that works for Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah. It's one of the things that's been said about this book. It is so classic. It's so sort of ancient oral tradition. It's the Odyssey. It is the Lord of the Rings. It's all of the that hero's journey thing, but with rabbits.
Yeah.
It even has all that stuff. Like it has the Cassandra figure. It has Fiver, who is the protagonist Hazel's brother, who has these visions. He has these really strange, very dark, unpleasant visions of coming catastrophe. And that's why they leave their original Warren, of course. That's why they go off in search of a new home.
What's quite terrifying of them is the way they take him over. When he has these
yes. Especially it's more in you see that more in the cartoon because you see the physical effect of what it does to him, and they are like little seizures, aren't they? Like he collapses, he twitches, he can't see reality. It's really unpleasant to watch.
Does it touch on myxomatosis?
I think
yes,
that's
the white-eyed blindness, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, they talk about that, don't they?
He tries to catch it in the story. Elaria tries to catch it when he's in the black rabbits.
That's right. That's right. It's like
he's got no ears, so that the fleas can't jump to other rabbits.
Right.
I can't remember that bit.
It's this whole thing of mythologizing the lives of rabbits. They have their own. It's so strange, actually. Their mythology is brilliant. It's so wonderful. It borrows so much from various different traditions and cycles. You got like the monotheism of Frith, who is basically the sun. It's the sun god. It's the ancient sun god of the rabbits. But beneath him, you've got all of these principles who are like sort of like the ancient Greek gods. You've got Prince Rainbow. You've got El-Khera, who is kind of the first of the rabbits, but also like the god of the rabbits. Yeah, he's like rabbit-ness, isn't he? He's like the essence of rabbit-ness. And you imagine that's probably true of all the animals, right? That there is one creature who is like the original and is the first principle of that creature in this mythology.
And I quite like the fact that their mythology, it goes on about how clever he is. I was constantly going about he's really clever and he outsmarts everybody. And without making a big thing of it, does also point out massive coward.
Oh yeah,
massive coward.
He's not a fighter. He's not a fighter. That's the other animal's prerogative. Yeah. That's the Allel's prerogative, isn't it? Yeah. The rabbits call the one of the great things about this book, of course, is the rabbit language, Lapine, which they lapse into all the time. But it's so brilliantly framed that you don't. I mean, there are footnotes in the book, but you don't really need them. You kind of can get from context what it's talking about.
But it is like the ultimate avatar of rabbitness.
Yeah.
But also, it's his fault everything wants to eat them.
Yes, he's kind of at fault a lot, is El-Khera, you know?
And it reminded it's clearly borrowing from Brer Rabbit. in many ways.
Yeah.
The American thing, but cosmic Brer Rabbit is just such an amazing concept. I love it.
It's great, isn't it? There's also almost like again referring back to these ancient oral cycles. There is this sort of Anansi thing going on with Elekhera, where on Loki, of course, he's a trickster. Yeah. That's his whole thing, right? He's a thief. He's a trickster. He's almost, in his own peculiar way, he's almost an agent of chaos. And this is why, of course, he becomes the prince of 1,000 enemies, because Frith doesn't really have much of a choice. The other animals are going to starve to death if he's allowed to carry on.
He's such a git.
He is. He's a real swine bag. He's an absolute. I mean, in many respects, Elekhera is not a nice character. No. But it's one of the wonderful things about the mythology. Again, it's very much akin to ancient Greek, ancient Celtic, in the sense that there are not really good guys and bad guys. It doesn't work like that. It's not that simple. You don't have the moral divide that you have with sort of monotheistic and Abrahamic traditions. They just are what they are. Yeah. This is Elekhera's essence. It's what he is. He is mischievous. He is, he's an agent of chaos. He will always do. He's a little thief. He will always take what he wants, regardless.
And I like the fact that they don't really hold it against the other animals for hunting them.
It's just the way things are. Yeah, it's the way things are.
How's so and so? They got eaten by a weasel. No, happens.
And it's great because it relates back to how, and again, the book does go into details about this, how rabbits deal with grief and their own state in the world. There's a lot of question in the book about identity, isn't there? There's a hell of a lot of it. It's what the differing warrens and their conflicting ideologies are all about. So you've got Cowslip's Warren, which is the first one they find along their way, and is initially seems to be like Eden. It seems to be like a rabbit paradise. But of course, they find out that it's again. I know that Adams hated this, but it's Odysseus. It's the Lotus Eaters, right?
Yeah, I think there's kind of also a message that I find a little bit worrying there, which is when your society gets too many artists, you maybe you need to be destroyed. Which I wouldn't necessarily agree with.
No.
But yeah, I much prefer the idea of the Lotus Eaters. Let's decide that's what he was saying. He was showing us.
It's such a dark concept as well. I mean, it's a real. Again, I know. Again, Adams probably wouldn't have liked this, but it's a real go at any society that allows for any degree of suffering or any where it just turns a blind eye to people who die as a result of the systems or as a natural byproduct of the systems that are. Because the rabbits in Cowslip's Warren have got this. They are fed by a nearby human farm. Their food is just given to them. It's just lumped out there. So they don't have to act like rabbits. They don't have to find food. They don't have to forage. They don't have to eat out in the open. They drag it back to their warren, which is not a done thing. But the byproduct of that, the corollary to that is that the farmers, of course, lay traps, they lay snares, and they take rabbits. So they've made this unconscious bargain where it's like, well, a few casualties is okay. It's worth this luxury. It's worth this Eden that we've created. That's the price that we pay.
You know what it reminded me of? Logan's Run.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. But I like the fact that Hazel's rabbits, their problem with it is that they're not rabbity. That's not what rabbits
brilliant,
do.
Isn't it? This is Fiver again being really fundamentalist. I mean, he absolutely loathes Cowslip's Warren. The minute he turns up, he cowers away from all the others. He's very unpleasant, more so in the book than in the film. He's really horrible to them. He tells them that he wants nothing of it. This place smells of death. He sees the tree roots holding up the main hall as bones, doesn't he? He sees them as like a rib cage almost. And the reason he hates them so much is because they are not acting like rabbits. They're not doing what rabbits are supposed to do.
And there's kind of the idea that great hall's a very human thing as well.
Yes. In fact, when you see Cowslip for the first time, he's standing up on two legs, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's moving like a human does, like he's walking or waddling around on two legs.
Kit Power in the house.
Hey, Kits, you're right.
Fucking hell. How's everyone?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that, is it, mate? Okay.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Okay. So, have you ever had one of those days where literally everything takes longer than it's supposed to? Literally every single thing you do all fucking day takes 5 to 10 minutes longer than it should.
Yeah.
Just because something gone wrong, you've forgotten something, you've misplaced something, or something isn't working the way it's supposed to. If I tell you that this morning started with me saying, I'm going to have a ham and cheese toastie. I haven't had a toastie in a million years. I'm going to have a toastie.
You love a toastie as well.
I fucking love a toastie, and I've been very good, because I'm trying to look after my weight and my health a little bit, and I'm trying to make baby steps towards healthy. But I was like, fuck it, it's nearly Christmas. I'm having a toastie.
Yeah, it's the season for just throwing all that aside. So,
exactly, comfort food and all that kind of thing. Right, so I'm rummaging around.
Turkey and cheese toastie, really.
Christ almighty, RJ. The sandwich shop of dreams, wherever it is, just shuddered. I felt it. That was a horrible thing to say out loud. Anyway, I'm sorry about him, George. Sorry about that. And everybody else listening, for that matter. Yeah. So where was I? Yeah. So I'm rummaging in the drawer, and I the cupboard, and the toasted cheese sandwich tray, because I haven't used it in a while. It's right at the back, and I've got to get around all the pans. And there's a lot of noise. And in the process of pulling it out, not only do I manage to break a Pyrex baking dish that was really good for making things. And then and then when I pull it out and I pull out the other end, the back of the plug has come off completely. I can't use it. It's not safe because I need to replace it. But and it's one of those where it's because the plastic inside the plug itself has snapped off. So I actually need to get a new plug, which of course I don't have. And it's just like that in microcosm, and then my whole fucking day has just been that.
Was that like a property for going forward?
It really was, but like every fucking thing I've had to do all day has been like that. To the extent where so coming to the garage already late, running late, like trying to get into the garage, trying to get here sort of somewhat with intolerance for just embarrassingly late. Like we haven't got the security lights on because we normally have security lights on, but the Christmas lights out front set off the security lights, so we had to turn the security light off. I'm going to the garage. I'm in a hurry. I've forgotten the security light's not going to come on. I run into the bin. I literally run into the fucking dustbin with my arm full of my laptop and my fucking expensive microphone and my headphones. And it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Like, so basically, I think in conclusion, what I'd like to say is just fuck today. Just fuck today. Okay?
Do you want to know something even worse, Kit?
I don't think there is anything that could possibly be worse, RJ, but go ahead anyway.
You have just turned up at the moment I was about to read some of Cowslip's poetry from Watership Down.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
It honestly is.
It kind of is. We were just discussing it. Yeah, it kind of is.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'll take that on the chin. It's my fault for being late. Before you do that, though, Scott, can I just take? Did you let RJ know about the new sponsorship deal that we got last week? Did you explain that to him?
I did not. No.
So at the start of the show, RJ didn't announce that the show was brought to us in association with King Kong, Best of the Kaiju, and T-Rex, obviously the best dinosaur. He didn't actually say that out loud at the start of the show.
I felt it would land better coming from you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I've said it on his behalf, so that's fine. We all know that's the show.
I can't say that until I've seen the documents and signed them.
Strangely, RJ, they do seem to bear your signature, so maybe we should talk about this offline.
Oddly animal-themed episode this time. We're going from rabbit to kaiju.
But anyway, I'm just going to read this bit of Cowslip's poetry.
You should definitely do that
because you read it coming through the book, and you don't yet know what is in store for Bigwig. And I'm going to read you the last verse, and I'm going to do it in a poetry voice.
Oh, God.
Frith lies in the evening sky. The clouds are red about him. I am here, Lord Frith. I am running through the long grass. Oh, take me with you, dropping behind the woods, far away to the heart of light, the silence. For I am ready to give you my breath, my life, the shining circle of the sun and the rabbit. And later on, when you know that there are snares everywhere, which are shining circles of wire, it's very difficult not to think anything but Cowslip, you dick.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because through the poetry, through the stories that are told by the rabbits and Cowslip's Warren, you understand that this is kind of like Adam's having a go at postmodernism, isn't it? And postmodern society. It's the end of history thing, right? Where everything is saturated and we've just accepted our lots within these systems and these structures. That's what Cowslip's Warren is all about. You don't talk about the evils of society and culture. You just relish the comforts of it. Yeah. And that's it. You don't talk. You don't rock the boat. There's almost like a really horrible centrist liberal thing happening.
You know what it made me think of? It was for me. It was the connective tissue between this book and my own text, Stephen King's It.
Yes, I was.
That Warren is Derry.
I was just about to say they've made this bargain, haven't they? They've made this devil's bargain with humanity, essentially. That if a few of the rabbits, and it's obviously going to be the younger rabbits, isn't it? The ones that stray a little further from the warren, the ones who are not quite as cautious. It's obviously going to be the younger rabbits. Doesn't matter. They we'll just turn a blind eye to that. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about that. We've got our sylphlay, it's given to us. We can drag it back to the warren. We have this nice, dry, comfy warren. That's okay.
But we make art.
Very dark. It's very unpleasant, but particularly within the framing of a children's story.
It's not a children. Richard Adams, stop lying to yourself, even though you're dead now.
I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's a great children's text because it treats children as intelligent and emotional and complex beings. It gives them this material in such a manner that they can understand it, and it treats them as though they will understand it, which is great. It's absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Efrafar, which is the fascist society, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wonder if it. Yeah, I mean, not to split hairs unduly. Did you see what I did there? I think it might have been intended to be Stalinist.
Putting shit on mute now.
The fucking day I've had. See, try me. See if I give a shit. I think it might have been intended by Adams to be at least as much Stalinist as fascist. But I mean, it's maybe a distinction without a difference in terms of the story. But
pretty much.
I only say that. I only say that because the general was actually a decent warrior, which, as far as I'm aware, Stalin at one point was a decent hand-to-hand combatant, and Hitler was just always kind of a bit shit.
Well, I think with Woundwort, it's just simply that he's the biggest guy, isn't he? He's just the biggest rabbit. That's it. Yeah. It's just a freak of genetics.
Maybe ever. Yeah.
He's just a very big rabbit who apparently isn't afraid of dogs at all.
Yeah. But he's not. He doesn't act like a rabbit.
Mm-mm. No.
That's that theme. He's not rabbity.
Yes,
it's a theme, isn't it? It is the consistent theme. It's what we talked about earlier when we talked about Fiverr being like that little rabbity bullet of truth, of absolute unwavering truth. Yeah. That's what rabbits are. What Fiverr basically tells them they are. What he prescribes. Everything outside of that.
Brilliant description of Fiverr as a rabbit fundamentalist.
That's what he is. Yeah, that's what he is. He is a rabbit fundamentalist.
Yeah. He is.
He is the avatar of Frith in this story. Yeah. He is the avatar of Frith. He is the word of the divine. I mean, he's as I said earlier, he's often conflated with Cassandra in the Odyssey, which he is. He is the Cassandrine figure, but he's the Cassandrine figure who's listened to. That's the way it upends sort of the Odyssey. But he's also a kind of like sort of fundamentalist, almost Abrahamic prophet as well. In the sense that he is the prescriptor of what rabbits are supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. He gives you the tenets, and if you don't adhere to them, then you do get punished. The rabbits that reject him get punished.
I'm sure someone's already pointed this out as well, but he does. Another way of looking at him is he has his disciples, right? Most people don't believe him, but he has his small gang of disciples who do.
Well, Hazel is, he's kind of long-suffering, particularly at the beginning. He really doesn't doubt Fiverr very much.
Hazel's my favourite character.
Hazel's great. Hazel's absolutely wonderful.
I was going to ask this, which is, which rabbit, when you were a kid, did you identify with?
Fiverr.
Which
Fiverr.
Fiverr, yeah. Love Fiverr.
I identified very strongly with Fiverr.
Yeah, me too.
Not because I was a prophet or anything, but just because I felt like no one ever believed me or understood me. I just that feeling of isolated. But also being a runt, just being physically small, which I was as a child.
It's also, Fiverr's the ultimate outsider as well, isn't it? Hazel's still, at the beginning, Hazel is kind of just a normal rabbit, isn't he? He fits in rather well, by and large. Fiverr just doesn't. In any way, shape or form, he's the runt of the litter. He's always on the outside of everything. And also, he happens to have these psychic visions. He knows more about the wider world and what's going on and the metaphysics of this world than almost anyone in it. And that sets him apart from everything else.
In my head, I wanted to be Hazel.
Yeah.
I knew I was probably Fiverr.
Yeah.
That was, or possibly more reality Dandelion, who's kind of the easygoing one who just goes along with everybody else.
Goes along, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll leave to Warren, whatever.
It's interesting. None of you thought you were Bluebell, the smart one.
I was going to say this. It's Bluebell like the smart ass, particularly though. Like always
the one with the ideas
with the boat, isn't he? Bluebell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bluebell's the one with the ideas, basically.
Is that you, Scott? Did you identify with Bluebell then? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I've only read it, this year, but totally. My 52-year-old self completely identifies with Bluebell.
Like, why don't these fucking idiots just listen to me? I know shit. Yeah.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
I always wonder if, like, I imagine that Hazel is kind of written around the archetypal British Army officer that you would actually want to serve under.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's just because of Richard Pryor's
that's
voice.
absolutely true. He's actually based on an officer that Adam served under.
Is he?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, and hugely admired. Hugely admired. Yeah, Adams himself has gone on record as saying that is absolutely the case. And given that this guy, given that Adams he's very, as we said earlier, Kit, he's very Tolkien-esque with regards to allegory. He's always been very strident about saying, no, this book is about rabbits. It's not the Odyssey. It's not about religion or anything like that. But he's very open about that particular aspect of it. It is absolutely based on. Actually, I think I may have the name of the officer. Hang on, let me have a look.
Because once you know that bigwig is definitely the sergeant, then whoever that. He is such an obvious sergeant. That is exactly who he is.
But the thing is, like, don't you think Bigwig's like the platonic ideal of a sergeant? Because I wanted to talk about Bigwig as a character.
Bigwig is great.
This time through, I completely fell in love with him. My folk memory of Bigwig was not this. At all.
Bigwig is the most interesting character because he's the one that changes.
Yeah, he's got an arc, hasn't he? Yeah, he absolutely has an arc. Fiber doesn't have an arc because Fiber's the same at the beginning and at the end. Hazel has an arc, obviously.
It's very slight, this arc.
Because Hazel becomes Hazel Ra, right? He becomes the chief. He becomes to realize himself after doubting himself and after saying, I'm not as clever as Bluebell, I'm not as big as Bigwig, I don't have visions like you do. He comes to realize that actually, I mean, okay, Fiver has the vision that saves them all. There's a dog in the wood. There's a dog loose in the wood. But it's Hazel who realizes what that means. And it's Hazel who brings the dog to save the Warren at the end, you know?
Yeah.
I think Hazel's arc is that he becomes more Hazel. Like Ella becomes like the perfect rabbit. Hazel becomes the perfect version of himself that is needed. Where Bigwig changes. He changes who he fundamentally is from the start to the beginning. He
learns a bit of humility, does Bigwig, doesn't he? Because he's so got his eye on being like Chief Rabbit, hasn't he? At the beginning, he has so got his eye on being the Chief Rabbit. But he realizes that he's not cut out for it, and that other people are, you know. The
bit that actually brings me to tears in it is the moment he stands up against Woundwort, and Woundwort just like tries to butter him up. And Bigwig says, "No, my Chief Rabbit has told me to hold this place, and I'm going to."
I like Woundwort's response to that as well, because Woundwort thinks he's the chief at this point.
And he's like, thinks there's a bigger rabbit. And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, because of course Bigwig is holding his own at that point against Woundwort. So Bigwig is a great, he's a really powerful rabbit. To think that there is a rabbit that Bigwig serves, maybe is the first and only thing in the entire story that actually shudders Woundwort.
And it's so well written that he can't conceptualize the fact that Bigwig would serve somebody who can't beat the shit out of him. And it's not said. It doesn't need to be said. It's just brilliant. And that I think, especially when I was a kid, because the idea that because I was clever and sly, some big kid would protect me for it.
Yeah,
I think that really resonated with me at the time, and has never stopped. I revisit that moment in my fiction a lot. I think.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed with it.
It is every element of the story is so beautiful. I mean, because I haven't read it, I haven't watched the cartoons for the longest time until Kit asked me to be part of this podcast, and revisiting it this time is just, it's not me on my arse, to be honest. It's so beautiful.
It's ridiculously good, isn't it?
It's so good. As I said earlier, Kip, I mean, I think I said to you, didn't I, in a text message or something, that it may be as close to perfection as a created thing can come.
It's yeah. I think it is one of those. It is one of those rare novels in particular. I think it's slightly easier to pull off with a short story, but I do think it's a perfect novel. What it is, it's just spot on.
And every time you read it, you discover something that is not about what you thought. There's more in there, and I hate it for that because I'm so jealous.
Part of that though is because it is several stories, right? I mean, that's what's clever about it, and somehow it does form a complete narrative arc across a few hundred pages, but it's episodic in some ways.
Yes,
and the other thing because my other touchdown for Watership Down is Wind in the Willows, which is a book I read a great deal as a child, and I do think Watership Down is the more accomplished narrative. Wind in the Willows is very episodic, but actually doesn't really hold together as a novel quite. In terms of its story arc, because it doesn't really have a story arc.
No, it doesn't really have one.
It's kind of a series of beautiful incidents, and then you've got this big fight at the end, which is very cool. And I'm not dissing Watership Down. Sorry, I'm not dissing Wind of the Willows. I love it, but I think Watership Down. For me, the impressive thing is it looks all the way through like it's Wind in the Willows. And you're thinking, well, that's cool. Wind in the Willows with rabbits and fighting. I'm up for that. And then you get the end, and you're like, holy fucking shit! You landed an entire arc here. You did. Like, how the fuck? I don't know.
The big difference between, say, Wind in the Willows and Watership Down is that Watership Down is just more ambitious. You know, and again, that's not a diss against Wind in the Willows. Wind in the Willows is trying a very specific thing, and it succeeds beautifully. Wind in the Willows is feel good, isn't it? Almost, there's no real stakes in Wind in the Willows. There's no real jeopardy. It's generally feel good, isn't it? You know, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's positive and reinforcing.
Toad might do something awful.
Yeah, why do we give a shit that the Stoats and the Weasels are taking Toad all? Like, really, think about
absolutely.
it.
It's
can we just address my favourite subject here, that weasels and stoats are really unfairly maligned as working class creatures?
They really are.
All fiction. That's why we don't like them, because they're the working classes. And we need to. I'm going to write a talking weasels book. That's
nice. There you go.
I'm going to do it.
The world needs it, RJ. It demands it.
Yeah, absolutely. They are maligned in almost every story they turn up in, aren't they? There are very few, I can't even think of positive narratives that involve stoats and weasels, quite frankly.
The only good mustard we get is Tarka the Otter and Ring of Bright Water. Otters, they're because they're the same family, aren't they?
Yeah.
I suppose,
yeah, they're allowed to be good because they're cute.
Yeah.
I love the way, actually, at that point you said, the only good press we get, implying that you are a stoat and or weasel.
I've probably given that I'm a goth, I'd be an ermine. Because I'm black. Do you know what else I noticed about the book this read through that I've never noticed before?
What's that?
He writes himself into it.
Right.
Richard Adams. At the end, the man that takes his daughter to let the rabbit loose at the end is Dr. Adams.
Oh, that's quite cute.
And I don't know if his daughter that he read the stories to was called Lucy, which is the girl in the book.
Because that's where the story comes from, right? They're stories about rabbits that he told his daughters, right? And they apparently insisted that he write them down. He was not that concerned. He wasn't really that bothered by his own admission until his daughter said, you have to write these down. You've got to do it. And that's what happened.
Did Plague Dogs come after it?
Not sure.
I think
not sure.
Watership Down's his first book.
Yeah.
It is his first book.
It's interesting because generally speaking, I prefer Watership Down. Watership Down is much more various in tone and feeling and theme. Plague Dogs is just raw despair. It's just vile. It's great, but it's bloody horrible. And the cartoon is guys, whoever's listening to this, don't. There is a cartoon of Plague Dogs. I'm just saying, don't. All right, just don't. It's horrible. It is the most horrible thing.
Yeah. It's like he thought, well, Watership Down made people quite sad.
Yeah, what if I do Watership Down? Yeah, what if I do Watership Down and take away all of the metaphysics, all of the hope, All of like, what if I just make it bloody vile?
I'm pretty sure at that point you're just talking about real life, and who the fuck wants to read about real
this
life?
Is it. This is what Plague Dogs is. It's just horrific. Like every moment is horrific.
His daughters were Julia and Rosamund.
Okay.
So not Lucy, but I imagine that is a stand-in for them that he's put in there. So he could say that. I'm looking for the bit in the book where should have bookmarked it, where Bigwig says. There we go.
Go.
I found it. My chief rabbit has told me to defend this run until he says otherwise. I shall stay here. And he's like, oh, Bigwig. I can't read anymore. You've got me right in the heart.
But it's brilliant. It's a brilliantly realised moment in the cartoon, of course, the 1976 cartoon, because the fight between Bigwig and Woundwort is epic in the cartoon.
Yeah,
they are raking at one another, and they are wounded and bleeding. I mean, the thing about the cartoon that a lot of people remember is how violent it is. Of course, it really is. It pulls absolutely no punches. Rewatching it this time around, the one sequence that really got to me is when Holly is recounting what happens to the original Warren.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
it's vile. In the book, it's really harrowing and unpleasant. In the cartoon, it's vile. It's just so horrible. It goes very abstract. It does that wonderful thing of changing the style of animation, which the cartoon does quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just these abstract images of death. You see the blade of the digger digging up the soil, and the rabbit body's flying, and there's blood on its teeth. And you see the rabbits choking into the sealed over exits of the warren and not being able to get out. It's just awful.
I mean, it's a pretty fucked up moment in the book, isn't it? And it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, to give Adam sort of a bit of space here in terms of like him saying it's just a story about rabbits. Like, I can understand that sense of like that sequence. I mean, that's something that we do, or certainly up until recently did do to rabbits. Like, it's just a description of a thing that happens or happened up until recently, in farming, but of course, given when it was written and the wider resonances, you can't help but reflect on other forms of mechanized death that may have been going on, or you know what I mean, like, so it gives it and that valence is there, even though I'm sure in that particular case Adams wasn't intending that. He was just thinking, what does this look like from the rabbit's point of view, right? Well, exactly. It looks like a fucking horror show.
Yeah, it's a great moment of empathetic writing, isn't it? Where he's trying to place himself in what's it like being underground in one of these warrens, the only world you've ever known, and suddenly something comes along that is like the apocalypse. That you have no concept of what this is. It destroys it's actually in the language that Holly uses in the book, where he's trying to describe the digger, because they don't believe him initially. In fact, one of the rabbits actually says to him, "You are exaggerating. You must have got this wrong," because he says it destroyed the field.
Yeah,
it leveled the entire field. And one of the rabbits says, no, that can't be true. That cannot be true. And he's like, it is. I saw it dig up the entire warren.
See, he comes to them like some spirit of death, doesn't he, out of the darkness?
Mm-hmm. Yes, in fact, Bigwig actually, there's a really weird moment actually in both the book and the cartoon where Bigwig gets really superstitious, and it's the first and only time that he's afraid of anything. He thinks it's the black rabbit of Inlay. Yeah.
Great,
and he actually goes to it as well. Bigwig he's afraid. He's absolutely terrified, but he says when it calls, you've got to go. Because of course Holly is calling his name.
Yeah. Oh, what a sequence!
I was just thinking that the whole thing you can clearly see echoes of his army service in it. Though he never saw combat. Didn't, from what I understand, didn't Richard Adams. He was auxiliary troops, and Kihar. It's a really weird choice for the book, and it never really made sense to me until I thought, oh my god, obviously he set up the British Army. He wants the Air Force.
Right? Yeah.
But I adore Kihar, and I think
Kihar's my favourite character. Full stop.
Yeah,
I think he's great. think he's absolutely brilliant, and his portrayal in both of the adaptations is frigging awesome.
Yeah,
he just comes along and he is this different note. He's such a different animal. I mean, obviously, the first thing he tells the rabbits to do in the cartoon is piss off. Literally tells them to piss off.
I can't. Just lots of little pig figs. That is branded onto my brain. And they bond because they're both a bit spiky. I quite like that.
Yeah.
No, I do.
He constantly berates the rabbits, doesn't he? He constantly tells them, "You're stupid. You've got no doughs. How are you going to survive without those stupid rabbits?" And then, of course, it's this mask. He's like, "Oh, I'll find them for you. I'll go and find places where you can get those." And of course, what I love is he's another one of the things that Woundwart's scared of.
Yeah.
One of the only things, the bird, the big white bird.
Yeah, they've got a bird. Woundwort has a brilliant moment, which I really like, where he could actually be a genius.
Yep.
And then he throws it away.
It's my favourite moment in the book, actually. Yeah. I'm really glad you brought it up. I this time through, I don't remember it from childhood, that moment. Yeah. But it's a moment where, I mean, you might have it. If you've got it, that's fine if you want to read it. But I think he says something like, it's something like, for a moment, the general saw the possibility of the offer before him.
Yeah, Hazel's offering
it. And it's something like he has to make a decision as to whether or not he is a petty tyrant or the grand visionary he'd always imagined himself to be, or something like that. It's really clever. And I love it because the way it's written, for a moment, it almost feels in doubt.
Yeah.
You feel like he might make the right call. And it's brilliant that he doesn't, and the way he doesn't. And I love that. I love that so much.
It's really cool, isn't it? It's really cool. It's great commentary on power and power dynamics and the way people like Woundwort operate.
Yeah.
And I think you also feel that there might have been a time where Woundwort's life where he would have made the right call.
He might have made the right call. Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. It complexifies the villain, because otherwise he's just a bastard, isn't he? He is just a fascist. He's just an absolute fascist.
It establishes his childhood, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it establishes his childhood as just one trauma after another, doesn't it?
True,
I mean, it's horrifying what happens to him.
Yeah.
See, I've wiped that out of my head. Can you give us a pressing?
Yeah, his dad's very cocksure and gets shot by a local householder eaten in his garden, who then comes over and digs out the warren where Woundwort, his mother, and his siblings are. And kills them all, and only his mother and he make it to safety. And then his mother is killed and eaten by a stoat in front of him.
Yeah,
while he's still a kid, and then he gets weirdly taken in by a human and spoon-fed and raised, and then breaks out and runs away. Yeah,
because he's. Do you know what I think we should make a law? I think that any child whose parents take them to see the Peter Rabbit films with James Corden should immediately afterwards be made to watch Watership. That should just be the rules. And just great. So watch this.
Yeah. This is about as far away from Enid Blyton as you can get. This is like Antipodean, isn't it? It's the anti-Blyton.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, isn't it? Because it really does show you. I mean, Adams is such a clever writer in that regard. Yeah. He's not going to allow you with getting away with just saying, "Oh, this guy's the bad guy," and that's it. He's just the evil fascist, and that's it. No, there is stuff here. He's showing you that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, the nice thing about Woundwort for me is it's one of those things where, as well, when you get the brief history of his warren, every single step he takes in and of itself has at least a plausible, rational, idea behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's every step inexorably takes him further and further down the path of dictatorship and violence and this kind of autocratic rule, and I kind of love that again, because it feeds into what you were saying earlier, RJ, that sense that perhaps a younger Woundwort might have made a different call,
might have made the better decision. And I also love the fact
that
Adams is he talks about how Woundwart's philosophy, his ideology, is ultimately self-consuming anyway. I mean, the FFR Warren, when you come across it, is already dying, right?
It's too big.
It's too big. Yes. It's too big, but he won't let anyone leave because he just cannot surrender control.
That's the bit that made me think specifically of Soviet Russia as opposed to Nazi Germany. It's just that particular thing about the tight control of the borders. But yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary, and I think. And it is that thing. I mean, George, you and I have talked about this many, many times. Like the self-defeating nature of evil is one of the interesting things about it, right? And this is true in fiction, but I think also, there are many worked examples of this in life as well. We don't fight evil because if we don't, evil will win. Evil will always destroy itself. It's just how much other things it destroys along the way.
Exactly,
that's why we fight it.
Yeah, because it's destructive, right?
Yeah,
it's corrosive. That's why we fight.
Yeah. We hate Nazis.
Yeah, and we hate Nazis, and we want to punch them in the face.
True. Absolutely.
And that's just a morally correct thing to do. I wanted to come back to Bigwig just very briefly because I was thinking about what you said earlier about RJ about Bigwig and how he genuinely does change. I think for me this time reading it, what I'd completely forgotten about Bigwig and what for me turns him from being what should be a fairly 2D character into one of my absolute favourites is his self-awareness. That's the key that Bigwig has. He reaches that moment where he's like, yeah, I am the toughest rabbit in this group, and that's not enough to make me a good leader.
Yeah.
And that is just that moment. And from that moment on, what I love is then his entire loyalty switches completely to that role of, right, so I'm going to look after the people who are really good at making decisions, and I'm going to back them up. And I'm going to, it's not like, and he still gets to be like fucking James Bond. He gets sent off into the Warren by himself, and he has to do all that, and that's awesome. It's really cool, and I love that he gets that. I love that he gets his hero moment
shows
there.
That he's really smart as well, right? He's not just like the big tough guy. He's he's really smart. I mean, Woundwort is pretty suspicious of him all the way through, but he plays it still. He plays it pretty straight.
That's great. He does really well. Yeah,
really weird how these things echo because when you were just talking about him there, in my first trilogy, this is massively spoilery for anybody who has not read it. I'm sorry. The character that is the antagonist in the first trilogy, in the second book of the trilogy, kind of wants to make amends. And the reason he wants to be king in the first one. In the second one, he's kind of, his life has changed and he'd realised he'd be a terrible king.
Right.
And then in the third book, he's really close friends with the character he was the antagonist of in the first one because he knows what a terrible king and that actually he's not this waste of space he thought he was. He's just doesn't fit into that space, and he's all right. He's Bigwig.
Yeah.
I've just written Bigwig. That's all I've done.
And also Holly, right? It's also it's a thing that Holly goes through as well. I mean, Holly has to go through literally through the apocalypse in order to learn it. Right. But there is something about the dynamic of Hazel and Fiver and this project that this pilgrimage that they're going on that leads people to change, that leads the other rabbits to change and reevaluate themselves.
Holly's is a genuine allegorical rebirth, isn't it?
Yeah.
He comes down the dark tunnel and everything.
I mean, it's almost Dantean for Holly.
Yeah.
He literally goes through the inferno and comes out the other side.
Right.
I mean, it's so violent as well. I mean, when in the book, it's so incredibly violent. I mean, he gets attacked. They get attacked by Cowslip's lot, don't they? At one point, Holly's survivors, the little band of survivors that he's got from the original Warren. It really does show you what Cowslip's lot are actually really like when anyone even remotely challenges their ideology. And he gets a bit torn up, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, really, they should really have led Woundwart's Warren back to Cowslip's.
Yes, that would have been great. Yeah,
let them fight.
Yeah.
Something else I've just realised as we were talking, and I'm going to go back to Kihar again. Kihar's the Polish airman, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kihar is one of those. Yeah, it is. I mean, I continue that thought a moment. I did just want to say on Kihar, the one aspect of that where I do feel that if one were writing Watership down in 2023, one might write it somewhat differently, is the accent. There is that thing where it's like, I understand what you're doing here. You're trying to say that these animals communicate, but they're clearly their language isn't entirely shared, and therefore it's difficult to understand each other. Perfectly sound basis for the decision.
Yep.
I would have found a different. I would have found a different way of doing it. That's all. But yeah,
you get it with the mouse as well, of course, in the book,
Yes.
which isn't in any of the adaptations. The mouse talks in a way that's redolent of sort of particular racial stereotypes that are quite problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mouse is quite uncomfortable. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you say, it makes perfect sense when, as you say, you realise he is the Polish airman, and then it's like, okay, yeah.
I mean, in the cartoon, of course, it's emphasised to the nth degree by the performance.
Yeah. Right.
It's really big. He maybe one of the biggest characters in the whole thing.
You just kept. It's another just genuinely great line that I have never forgotten from Watership Down, and it's brought on by you talking about the other animals can talk. Is can you run? I think not.
Oh God, yeah.
When
yes,
catches Hazel and it's come back to haunt him.
Yeah,
and as a cat lover, that's exactly what a cat would do.
That's what cats are like. Yeah, I mean, you've got to. It's one of those things you've really got to deal with when you have a cat, isn't it? When there are cats around the place, they're killers. They
absolutely are.
Killers. It's so hardwired into what they are. Even cats that are raised entirely indoors have that instinct.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is, unfortunately.
No, and when it comes to my cat, he'll not only kill living things, he'll also kill your feet.
We'll certainly try.
So a real problem with feet. He doesn't like them at all.
It's interesting with Hazel, isn't it? He has a couple of symbolic deaths all the way through. I mean, there's obviously the big one. Certainly the big one in the cartoon is when he's shot by the farmer. And that's when you get Bright Eyes, of course. And that wonderful sequence where Fiver is led by the rabbit of death to him. And absolutely beautiful.
And then we have Kihad taking out the little balls. Which which no rabbit could do.
Right.
Always makes me wince, that does, for some reason. It's like,
it's the
very unpleasant.
Watership Down version of the kid getting his arm chopped off in Master and Commander.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I was just thinking it's that, it's that classic sequence.
Which, no, I should have thought about that at all. It's really weird. I can't deal with them. I love an 18th century ship film, but I can't deal with it. There's always an amputation scene in them.
Oh yeah, anything involving like a naval scenario, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be an amputation.
If there's muskets, someone's getting an arm cut off at some point.
Yeah. If you're at sea, absolutely, someone is going to get an arm cut off or a leg or something.
It's really weird though. Have you watched Master and Commander? Because
I have recently, but yeah,
can't watch the arm being cut off, but I can't watch the man having a hole drilled in his head.
Trepanation, fine. Amputation, no.
They put a coin over the hole and hammer it onto his skull, which I love, and it is apparently historically accurate. But I think I quite like that.
There are preserved skulls that have been recovered that have the coin in the hole.
Nice.
Oh, that is so good. I wonder if you can have that done on the NHS.
I think you'd probably have to go booper for that. I got to be honest.
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah,
probably would have to go booper for that.
NHS, you get 2p.
Definitely.
Maybe get a sovereign or
and it'd be a chocolate one, you know.
Half a crown.
We're getting Master and Commander quotes. Lesser of two evils. Classic.
Have you guys talked yet about the stories within stories, the mythology, the religion stuff? Did you cover
kind of? Yeah, we did talk a little about it. Not to any great depth. I mean, one of the things that it's one of the things that isn't in many of the adaptations. In fact, the adaptations kind of gloss over them to a certain degree. Yeah. But you have these wonderful moments.
Almost didn't bother, did it?
Almost just. In fact, it acted the new BBC one. I like it fine, but when it comes to those moments where you've got the character stopping to tell a story of El Khairar, it just stops and it moves away. it just moves away from it. It takes you away with another character to do something else. But in the book, you get these wonderful little parables and these mythic moments that are the stories of Elekhera that the rabbits tell one another. And it's wonderful. It's redolent of the oral traditions that the wider story is based upon. So things like ancient Greek cycles, the Odyssey. And they are stories that are designed to reinforce what rabbits are supposed to be, how they're supposed to behave.
Also done for comfort.
Yeah. And for comfort,
Yeah, they're very much for comfort.
Because as much as they are reinforcing rabbit norms, they're also definitely bigging rabbits up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
rabbits are the cleverest. Rabbits are the smartest.
Exactly.
Rabbits essentially outsmart God a couple of times.
Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like, the reason everyone wants to kill us is because we're so damn cool. I mean, that's basically the kind of
And, being rabbits, you kind of get that, don't you? Because they are rabbits. I mean, in any real world scenario, rabbits are like prey for everything. That's what that's almost like what they've evolved to be. They're prey for frigging everything. So they have to have something. They have to have something. Otherwise, you would become like cowslips lot, wouldn't you? You'd just become apathetic and accept your fate.
We were saying that although Elekhera does sort of give them all the cleverness and all of that, also entirely his fault. Everything eats them.
Yeah. Giveth and taketh away. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
What we talked about earlier, Kit, was it's the nature of Elekhera. What we love is the fact that these oral cycles, despite the fact that they derive a little bit from sort of like, Christianic and Abrahamic mythology, you've got the monotheism of Frith. Yeah. Underneath that, you have this reference to sort of ancient Greek, ancient Nordic, ancient Celtic, sort of pantheistic thing, where Elekhera is the essential rabbit. He's almost like the god of rabbits, or the demigod of rabbits. He's essentially what rabbits are in every conceivable way. And as a result of that, he's kind of a dick. Elekhera in the stories is kind of a bad guy in many respects. He's mischievous. He thinks that everything is his. Absolutely everything in the world belongs to him, and he will move mountains in order to steal something that he thinks is his, and just to get one over on people.
Yeah. I mean,
the book doesn't
I felt
judge
they were like demigods. That's what I felt. I mean, I felt he was like a demigod character. Yeah.
We spoke earlier about Elekhera being almost analogous to characters like Anansi or to Loki.
Super cosmic Brer Rabbit.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. I mean, funnily enough, in the stories of Brer Rabbit is like that.
Yeah.
He is this mischievous guy who's really clever and gets exactly what he wants by just being the smartest guy in the room.
I mean, it reminds me of the... go on. No, go on.
I do have a feeling that Brer Rabbit is ripped off from Anansi, though. I can't... That's the thing in the back of my head. I think that might be where it came from in the first place. I'm gonna ask the internet.
Check the chronology.
He is definitely, even if he's not directly inspired by Anansi, he's the same mythic archetype. He is exactly the same archetype. And what I love about this book is that it doesn't present like a moral judgment of Elekhera for that. No. That is just what he is. In the same way, I mean, you said, RJ, earlier, that within the stories of Elekhera, there's no judgment of the Elil either. The non-rabbit animals that prey on them. It's just what they are. It's just their nature.
Brer Rabbit stories were passed down as an oral tradition from African Americans of the southern United States and have come from African trickster figures.
Okay. Nancy and so on and so forth. That's brilliant. That's really cool.
Yeah. So they're saying a hare god. I don't know the stories. I'd quite like to.
Nice.
To know the stories. It's quite it never touched on the fact that, and I don't know whether it's just because it wasn't commonly known that rabbits are not natural to England, because they feel very much part of the English, but they're
absolutely
not.
I mean, they feel so much part of our ecosystem, which they are now, obviously.
Yeah. But that's interesting.
You never meet a hare in Watership Down, who are actually they're kind of the original native.
Well, they're like they're like the red squirrel, aren't they?
Like the red squirrels, of course.
Similar sort of problem.
even now that we've lost 40% of our wildlife, thank you, capitalism, the rabbits are still everywhere.
Yeah,
Rabbits are amazing creatures, and I mean, of course, that's how they survive. That's the whole thing, right? They reproduce at such a
enough of them are fast enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enough of them are fast enough for long enough. That's it. That's it. That's evolution, baby. That's the game. That's the eternal game right there. That's the arms race you're trying to win. Fast enough for long enough to make more rabbits. That's it. But yeah, I think it's really because one of the things that struck me on the book, and again, it wouldn't have struck me as a child, I don't think, was what I really appreciated was the portrayal of a society where you have this. I mean, I'm going to call it a religion, whatever you want to call it, like a mythology. But I think it takes a lot of the trappings of a religious belief. But one that is kind of that everyone in that society basically believes. And that was really interesting because they are absolutely shocked when they encounter rabbits that aren't telling those stories, right? That's part of how they know something is very, very wrong at that first warren they get to. They don't
actually Cowslip says, doesn't he, that we don't really go in for the old stories anymore.
Yeah, right.
We were saying how the both Woundwart's warren and Cowslip's warren, the fact is that they don't act like rabbits.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's their great sin, right? That's their great sin, and that's what condemns them ultimately. They are, again, they're deviating from what is Fiverr's fundamentalism. Ultimately, this is what rabbits are. This is how you're supposed to behave. This is what Frith decrees, and that's that.
But the thing is, though, that what's different is, of course, that in the story of Watership Down, like Fiver is right. There is no ambiguity about Fiver or Fiver's visions.
He's absolutely on the level. There's there's no ambiguity at all. He is absolutely 100% correct, and he is, what we said before. He's the bullet of truth. That's what he is, unwavering, unambiguous, and cannot be gainsaid. Cannot be gainsaid.
But that's what's interesting because even though the first warren they're in does normally follow the same, they are believers. They do tell the stories, whatever. Still, when they're faced with an actual real life prophet, most of them don't believe him. Yeah, and that's before you even get outside of the warren. So the other point of resonance that I had this time through is the Dead Zone, where you've got a very similar setup in that you've got a lead character who actually can see the future.
Yeah,
and what a shit gig, because no one fucking believes. What are you going to do?
Believes you, right?
You shake the guy's hand and you find out that if he's going to be president, World War III is going to happen. Okay, great. What do you do with that information?
What do you do with the information, right?
Because no one's what court in the land can you take that to? What right of appeal do you have? And it's not exactly the same, but I appreciated that because to me it felt like there were layers to the belief. It's like, they all believe this, but then. But then, even then, it's this thing of the gap between, and I think that's saying something quite spiky. I think about the gap between kind of unconscious belief and real faith. Almost there's quite a strong, if you want to read it that way, there's quite a strong religious kind of commentary in there about we all believe this thing, but how much of us really actually if we were faced with it, how many of us?
It has more friend came round and said to you, "Look, your house is going to be destroyed. We've got to walk to the south of France."
Right.
You'd just be like, fuck off.
Yeah. With religious friends specifically, you'd be like, mate.
Yeah.
There is a sort of wider commentary about ideology in general there, isn't there? It's about it's like you said, Kit, it's about genuine belief when you feel it in your gut, rather than it just being performative or a matter of superficial identity. One of the big sins, or ritual, exactly, empty ritual. One of the great sins of the warrens that are ultimately moribund or destroyed is passivity. It's passivity with regards to whatever ideology they've adopted. There's no movement to them. There's no questioning or shaking up of that ideology. They just accept, and because they're comfortable within them.
Yeah,
it's quite clever though, in that the rabbits that leave don't necessarily. Even Hazel doesn't necessarily do it because he believes Fiver. Fiver is an excuse for a bunch of young male rabbits who know that they're not going to get to mate in that warren. And really, they're chasing tail.
I mean, I mean, for me, the differentiation with Hazel in particular is I think Hazel doesn't necessarily believe Fiver, but Hazel trusts Fiver.
He does
I think
trust
that's
Fiver, yeah.
really interesting.
And I think also he would die to protect Fiver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Fiver
agree.
is going, so he's going because he.
So he's going. Yeah, that's it, right?
On the gender of the rabbits, it's quite an interesting point because, of course, you're right. I mean, one of the things that I really liked was to get to the point where, as you know, as we discussed, basically the big bird system. Well, you're fucked, aren't you? Like, right. Well played, guys. Enjoy
what exactly are you gonna do?
Enjoy the next 2 to 3 years.
Warrant. You've created
exactly.
Warrant, boys.
Well done.
Yeah.
You think those
It's
guys
either
are
the incel Warren or it's a Warren of like hyper homosexuality, right?
Well, yeah. Either way, you know, next generation, I think,
either
challenging.
way, they're kind of
Yeah.
Bit of an evolutionary dead end for that particular group. But there was a thing about... Go on.
That was a real problem for the remake the BBC did, that they didn't want it to be all boys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of part of the story. It's quite difficult.
It's quite important, I think. Yeah,
it is. It's difficult to get out of, isn't it? Because it is one of the key drive. It's one of the reasons they go to Ephravar, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. Absolutely. That's huge, and it's also the reason why Hazel goes to the farm, the nearby farm.
Yeah, tries to rescue the cage rabbits. But
it's tricky.
Can we just have a moment of silence for Blackavar, please? Because I love Blackavar.
Mm-hmm.
And he dies bravely trying to save them from Woundwort.
Yeah,
he does.
Didn't deserve it.
Does.
No, what a rabbit.
Yeah, what a rabbit.
And he gets badly treated by this book, doesn't he? He gets really badly treated by this book.
With his ripped up ears.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, carry on. We've had our moment for Blackavar.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that one of the interesting things I found was that even though I knew there were all male rabbits, because as indeed it was quite important to the book, I kept mentally assigning some of the rabbits female gender. And I'm not, perhaps just because of the names, actually, as I think about it. But certainly, Dandelion, Holly, and Hazel as well. They kept slipping into female voice for me. And they worked, actually. There wasn't an issue there. They worked quite well. Except it didn't make any sense in terms of the plot, obviously.
Actually,
anyway, I don't know.
A really interesting way of retelling the story would be to gender flip it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Have them all be female,
That would be really fascinating, wouldn't it?
It would work.
Especially when they went into Ephrafa. Because a female rabbit's position in Ephrafa is very different to what Hazel got to be.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, my God, you can imagine, right? It would be The Handmaid's Tale, right?
Yeah.
The rabbit equivalent.
Yeah, but I love the idea of a female version of Bigwig in that position, just being like,
me too. And a
bring it on.
Right?
Yeah. You think
and of course, I mean, with regards to Fiver, you'd have a real Cassandrine figure then, right?
Literally Cassandra, yeah, that's true, yeah. Anyway. Watership Down's quite good, you guys. I'm glad that I read it.
Honestly, I mean, coming back to it this time, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Scott, were you saying something about?
I was just going to say, I'm glad I read it. I really enjoyed it. I obviously you guys, it got you at a young age, and it really embedded, and you've been thinking about it off and on for
decades,
quite a while now. Yeah.
Whereas I'm still relatively fresh to it, but I hugely enjoyed it, and I was surprised. I expected a kid's book.
You keep cutting out, Scott.
Do I?
Yeah, it sounds like you're very far away from your microphone.
Very distant.
How am I now?
Much better.
That's it.
It's like you've gone out of the bathtub and we can hear you again.
I bought too expensive a microphone. That's my problem. It only works in a bloody sound booth. Or when it's like right up my nose. I expected there to be like one shocking death that was like a really shocking moment in it, because that's what I remember from the film.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not like that at all.
No.
It's much darker. It's much more visceral. Yeah. It's much more concerned with issues, as you keep mentioning, religion and politics and social organization, and it's a rich text.
Yep. Absolutely, it is. And let's not forget what it gave birth to. Of course, the Animals of Farthingwood is kind of directly inspired by this.
And Duncton Wood is the sexy version. I got given Duncton Wood because I loved Watership Down so much when I was about 12, I think. And it's very different to Watership Down. There's a lot of mole sex in Duncton Wood. A lot.
Okay.
And let's not forget, of course, those traumatized generations who remember the original cartoon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think what we've really discovered is that I have always said this is one of the greatest books of all time. And I'm right.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yes. Exactly once in your life, RJ, you had a correct opinion. I hope you really enjoy this moment of validation on Writeopolis / what the hell is wrong with us.
Bear in mind, though, Kit, RJ did earlier apologise to the people who hadn't written his book, read his book, sorry, rather than that. Yeah, so how right can you be?
It's very hard to argue with, isn't it? Because it's just an effervescent piece of work. I will say again, though. Do not go and read or watch Plague Dogs after.
No, okay.
No. Even
especially if you're in a bad place, if you are mentally in a difficult place, don't.
Shardic's quite similar, isn't it? And it's also awful.
Yeah, Shardik again. It's pretty horrific, to be honest. Yeah. Although, if you like your Stephen King and you want to get some of the references, you're going to have to read. You're going to have to read it all, really, because he references Shardik, he references Watership Down. I think he references Plague Dogs a couple of times, particularly in the Dark Tower. So
Shardik pops up in the Dark Tower series.
He's actually in it, isn't he? Yeah, he's one of the guardians of the beam, isn't he? He's one of the guardians of the beams of the tower.
And I think, although he's not named, I think he's shouted out in The Girl That Loved Tom Gordon as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that feels like a Shardik shout out to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is one of the greats, and I will say as well, as much as we've kind of laughed about Adam saying it's just a book about rabbits, but I think for me that maybe does demonstrate something like one of my pet theories about really good fiction, which is if you commit full bore to the story that you're trying to tell, then you will deliver something that not just tells that story, but has wider resonances that maybe you weren't even intending to have. But I think there's something. I think there's something about if you really commit to. I always use the word honesty, which I know is a bit of a slippery word, but I think in this case, what I probably mean is fidelity to the idea. In other words, if you are really going to say, okay, let's assume rabbits do have language and do have some kind of mythology and do it, like, what does that look like? What would it look like? But your commitment is everything else about them is still the rabbits that we have. So let's just go with that and push that as far as you can. If you've got the kind of talent that Adams had, you're going to end up coming up with something really fucking special. That's the thing. And he may have genuinely gone to his grave thinking it was just a book about rabbits, intending it to be just a book about rabbits.
You missed the saying that we have a suspicion that he was winding people up.
That's also possible.
If it was just a kid's book about rabbits, why was he prefacing each chapter with Greek philosophers?
It's true. It's absolutely true.
Yes. Middle English poems about Robin Hood, for God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, very like Tolkien. He says, there's no allegory at all. It's not the Odyssey. It's not about Christianity. It's not about this or that. And yet. But this is the thing, isn't it? Like, it doesn't have to be. If you commit strongly enough to telling a really fucking good story, and you're steeped enough in the wider culture because you just are a human in the world in the time that you're writing, that shit will get in there anyway. It's absolutely.
Fine,
I mean, we kid, we exaggerate, but no, it's absolutely true. It's the Tolkien effect, right? Tolkien famously said, "There's no allegory in the Lord of the Rings," and yet there's clearly allegory in the Lord of the Rings.
I believe him, because Tolkien wasn't even trying to write a novel; he was just trying to create a setting for his fucking language. I mean, like, he didn't give a shit, And exactly.
And yet, right?
As writers, I genuinely believe we don't know what we're writing.
Totally.
My latest novel, I thought I was writing a book about the man who refuses the call to arms, and it circles round, and he does not address what needs to be done until he absolutely has to do it, and there is no option to do it or anything else. And I was on a podcast talking about this, and they just went, "You're chronically ill, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And they went, "How do you cope with that?" And I just thought, I absolutely ignore it. I'm too ill and have to do something about it. And I just thought, yeah, I've just written a book about me. Just a really awful, beardy version of me, but it is.
Let's think about what Richard Adams did for a living. He was a civil servant. So he spent his entire life pretending to be politically neutral while being the servant of masters of wildly divergent philosophies and political outlooks. And then he writes a book that's exactly that.
Exactly that.
I'm so disappointed you didn't say gigolo. That's where you wrote about rabbits.
God.
Oh, brilliant.
I've cheapened it, haven't I? Sorry.
A little bit.
Yeah.
We'd expect nothing less of you, though.
It is very British civil servant. In some ways, it's kind of like early Licard in that stiff upper lipness.
Yeah, definitely.
Very much so.
Definitely,
the voices are very British, aren't they? They're very British.
Yeah.
Oh, Bigwig's stoicism is fucking hilarious. I mean, it's almost cartoonish. It's extraordinary.
It's something that the actors in all of the adaptations have really picked up and run with as well.
Yeah,
really run with.
What we've discovered basically is that we all identify with Fiver, but we want to be Bigwig.
Pretty much. Who wouldn't want to be Bigwig? Bigwig's awesome.
I don't know. I'm okay being Fiver. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I think Hazel's pretty fucking cool as well.
Yeah, Hazel's brilliant.
Hazel's your everyman, isn't he?
And Bluebell. I mean, there's a lot of people I like.
They're
and of course, Kihar. Love Kihar.
Yeah, Kihar's fucking awesome. Actually, Kihar's kind of the best gig, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Everyone brings you food. And then you go. You just do a bit of scouting. You single-handedly win the battle and get all the fucking glory, even though they come up with a smart plan just by being scary as fuck. And then that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you can just fly away from it all, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go back to my life now.
I'm done now. Yeah, I'm done.
Do we
to the big water.
Yeah. Does Fiver have a family? Because I know Hazel.
I can't remember.
I cannot remember if it goes into detail about actually what happens to Fiver at the end, because it really shifts focus to Hazel at the end.
Yeah.
Really shifts focus hard, you know?
Yeah, because
after Fiver's done his thing with the dog, I think that's it. You know, once he's had his vision that there's a dog in the wood, I think that's largely it for Fiver.
Well, they think Fiver's dead, don't they? They actually see him as a dead body when the enemy attack the Warren, right? They see him lying there because he's so deep in his vision at that point, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
Traditionally, like you see a figure don't make it through, do they?
No, that's right.
That's right. That's right.
But I wonder if he did die originally. I wonder if there's a version.
That would be interesting.
It'd be great if the seer figure did make it to the end of the story.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
And they say, so what's going to happen now? And the seer just says, nothing. It's absolutely fine. Our lives are going to be perfect. Yeah. There's not going to be any trouble again. Roll credits.
That's it. That's the end.
See, my favourite version of that is the seer character. The seer character. My version of that is the seer character just says, "You fucking idiots! You fucked it all up. This is the way." And then has a heart attack.
But it would be a really good way for a writer to ensure right. If the book / film was a success, no other writer could come in and fuck it up with a shitty sequel.
This is nothing whatsoever to do with Watership Down. It's just something that I saw today, and I've been trying to remember it so I could tell Kit and Scott, one of whom will probably already know this, or I'm wrong. But I watched the first episode of the new Reacher series. And in it, Reacher and the woman he's working with check into a hotel, and she checks in under the name Sarah Connor. And the man that gives you that information is the man that played the Terminator in Terminator 2.
Oh, excellent.
Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent.
I just saw that and thought, Kit and Scott will want to know that.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm going to wait till all the episodes have dropped and then I'm going to binge it.
Did you guys do a what have we been watching thing at the start? Did I miss that?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't.
Should we do it now?
Should we do it? I mean, as a quick. Well, the only reason I bring it up because I have to tell I have to tell all three. In fact, that I went and saw Godzilla -1 last night at the cinema with.
Is it as good as everybody said?
Fuck me, yes. Oh my fucking god!
Wow.
Actually,
Better than King Kong?
okay. Shut up.
It's one guy, isn't it, who wrote it, directed, and did all the special effects himself.
God, it's fucking honest to God. It is so. So here's the thing, like, So I took Kiddo last night, and I got a message this afternoon from George, our friend David Fagiani of the Scapegoat podcast. And he messaged me and said, "Have you seen Godzilla -1? If not, you kind of have to." and I replied, and I was like, "I took Kiddo yesterday. Oh my god, it was amazing." We blurbed about it for 5 minutes, and he was like, "Can you get George to see it? Because I want to talk to him about it." So I think George, we may be doing an emergency. What the hell is wrong with us on Godzilla
obligated. Right, I will watch it.
It's
obligated. We'll watch it.
Oh my god! I mean, I can't remember. Like, I didn't expect to cry in a Godzilla movie. My kid and I were both in tears at the end of this fucking movie. Literally in tears. It is so fucking good, and it really is about because it is a Japanese story. It's set immediately post World War II. So the main character is a kamikaze pilot, and he chickens out of his kamikaze run, pretends there's a fault with his plane. Lands on an island, and then he meets I'm going to say baby Godzilla. It's still big by lizard standards, but it's not.
Godzuki.
Yeah, it's not fucking Godzuki either. Stop making that joke. Anyway, so this guy is carrying this enormous guilt, basically. Well, double guilt, right? He's the only survivor on the island, so there's that. Or, one of only two survivors on the island, so there's the guilt of that. There's also the guilt of not having fulfilled his mission as a kamikaze pilot. He goes back to Tokyo. Tokyo is fucking rubble. Because it's been destroyed by the Allies, because it's World War II, So, and his family are dead. And he's just got nothing. And the whole of the story, or the whole part of his story, like, you see the very, very slow rebuilding of Tokyo around him as he's kind of coming to terms with this. But it's really a movie about survivor guilt, but it's specifically about survivor guilt within the context of Japan and the Second World War. It's fucking awesome.
Really interesting.
It's so fucking good. And the other thing is, I mean, not to get into... Go on.
Careful. I haven't seen it.
Okay, no. The only other thing is not to get into spoilers. The other thing I really liked about it was I really liked the way Zilla was handled. I'll just say that. I won't give any spoilers, but I'll just say I think for me it restored some of the things about Zilla I haven't enjoyed as much in some of the other movies which I've loved in other respects. But I think this version of Zilla is the version of Zilla I prefer. I would just say that.
Very interesting.
Did you notice that in the Godzilla X Kong trailer?
Yeah.
There may not be a Godzuki, but there is a Kongzuki.
Yes.
Yes.
Kongzuki.
Which I just can't imagine the joy that's going to fill you with, Kit.
Kong Jr. and just shut up.
Oh dear.
Shut up. Anyway. But yeah, so Godzilla -1, fuck yes. What I love about it as well is where it's only gotten the big cinema release over here was because it did unexpectedly insane business in the States. So if you do get a chance to go see it at the cinema, I'd recommend it. Partly because it deserves the support, and it would be nice to see more. It'd be nice to see, frankly, more fucking movies with subtitles in getting mainstream releases. And this movie 1,000% deserves it. It's fucking brilliant. I really do. And like I say, we were in tears at the end, and I wasn't expecting that, and I'm profoundly grateful I got to take my kid as well.
That's great because it's been a bit of a dry year for sort of mainstream cinema. So cool.
It's nice to have this one coming out. And what was nice was afterwards, like, me and her had a good 3/4 of an hour conversation about World War II, about Japan, about Japan's part in it, about the kamikaze tactic, all kind of, because there was a lot of stuff in there she didn't know about. So we had a lot of unpacking to do afterwards.
They touched on all the firebombing as well before the nuclear attacks.
Yeah, I mean that's yes, I mean that's why Tokyo is the state it's in, obviously, because Tokyo wasn't new. So it's there. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's like super foregrounded. One of the interesting things about the movie is how America / the UN almost feels like another kaiju. In the sense of this distant, all-powerful force that just creates boundaries or demolishes cities or in a fairly arbitrary way.
Yeah,
which I guess if you were
subtext out,
which I guess if you were a Japanese civilian, that probably is what it felt like. I mean, it's really so that's interesting. Yeah, there's that dimension to it. But no, they do talk about that obviously because, as I say, Tokyo is just rubble when he gets home. So he's got it's brilliant
that you came to this episode doing the whole King Kong is best, and now we're at the end, and you're worshipping at the true church, which is just lovely.
I never said Zilla wasn't good. Something can be good. RJ, let me explain something to you. Something can be really good, and something else can still be better. Okay, there are many movies in the world that are very, very, very good. There is only one that is the best, and that's Robocop. Okay, that doesn't mean the other movies aren't good. I enjoy other movies than Robocop. They're just not as good.
I took Kiddo to the Prince Charles Cinema in London. It's the first time we've ever been there. It's they only show old movies, and we went to a screening of Die Hard.
I am well, Joe.
For Christmas.
I am well, Joe. That must have been awesome.
The audience was so fabulously drunk.
I could imagine the atmosphere was incredible, right?
I mean, Tom just absolutely loved the fact that they were laughing at all the wrong moments. the bit where he admits that he shot a kid, the audience just cracked up. Thomas thought that was the funniest thing ever. I mean, and there were cheers at certain lines. It was almost like Rocky Horror.
I was thinking that.
Brilliant! Oh my goodness!
Fantastic!
Very
so
cool.
Much fun.
Very
much fun.
I've continued watching Elementary with my boy, which
nice.
Just does not quit. It's just great.
Okay.
Doesn't drop in quality at all. Slow Horses, the new series is
very
genuine.
good.
Has it finished yet? I'm going to wait until because I can't afford a year's worth of Apple TV. I'm going to wait till it's finished and then just
they've
buy
got
a month
3 months free at the moment.
But you want to wait till it's all on there and binge a few things, don't you?
Oh, God,
I'm enjoying it.
But it is just remarkable.
Yeah.
And I still marvel over the fact that Roddy Ho in the TV series is so unpleasant and still a nicer bloke than he is in the books. Just fantastic. I started watching Monarch with the boy, which is quite interesting.
We're watching that.
Into it, and I watched Blue Eye Samurai, which was great in a kind of no surprises way. I saw a lot of people were quite surprised about it, but I thought, well, I basically knew everything that was coming in it. There was no surprises at all. But it was really good.
The thing I haven't got around to watching, which I know that you will also want to watch, RJ, is the final season of Reservation Dogs.
Oh, I forgot that had come up. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to write that in my thing so I do watch it because the first two were brilliant.
Oh,
I'm a bit. Is there a need for a final season?
Well, it is very definitely the final season, and the reviews have been pretty ecstatic. So
yes, I saw that. So, but it did end in a proper place.
It did.
So yeah.
And I will say that the final season of The Crown is even more insane than the reviews had suggested. It is genuinely fucking extraordinary. To have a show that's gone over the course of 6 seasons from being one of the most expensive in terms of pounds or dollars per episode produced prestige TV that really was, when it started, kind of almost like a dramatic portrayal of a social history of the United Kingdom.
That's exactly what it was.
And the fact that it has, over those six seasons, morphed into one of the most fucking insane shows I've ever seen, while still having the same amount of money spent on it.
But isn't that exactly what's happened to the royal family?
Well, and kind of Great Britain too, let's be honest.
Yes.
It's hard to contain, isn't it? The insanity is hard to contain if you're telling that story.
There is a moment, I don't want to, I actually, it's one of those things, like, I know no one's going to watch it, but it's one of those what I almost wish people would, just because it is It is so fucking insane. I'm not entirely convinced it's not art still in some other completely fucking weird way.
I'm going to risk spoilers. Is this the Diana's ghost sequence?
No, God, no. That's fucking sane compared to what happens later on. Yeah, yeah. It's not just Diana. Dodie's ghost turns up as well. By the way, no one mentioned that. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
No. I'm talking about the opening of the last episode I'd watched, which I think is episode.
When you say ghost, do you mean like Force ghost, like Spectre, Jacob Marley coming through kind of thing?
I mean, as in, sits opposite Charles and sort of forgives him for the infidelity, and then sits opposite the Queen and says, well, you probably should modernise a bit, because, they want to know that you're a real person, Mom.
It's kind of like the season 7 finale of Magnum P.I.
It's fucking insane.
Wow.
And that's mild compared to what happens at the opening of... Yeah. And then at the opening of episode, 4 or 5... It opens in Westminster. So you open in Westminster Abbey, and you've got the actress playing the Queen walking down the street. There's loads of people cheering and waving flags, and the news report is talking about how the Queen's been deposed, and they're crowning a new king. And then you cut to the inside of Westminster Abbey. The entire royal family are inside there, played by the actors, and the whole abbey's full. And then as this, to this point concealed figure is having the crown lowered on his head and being declared king, the choir starts singing in this perfect pitch voice the opening lines of Things Can Only Get Better.
Amazing.
And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Amazing.
This show has just gone completely fucking insane. And that's just the first 2 minutes of that episode. And I think it gets crazier from there. Even though that image is a kind of opening shock image, I think what that episode is saying or trying to say is just so utterly batshit.
I almost want to watch it. I can't believe it. I almost want to watch it.
If you've got Netflix, George, seriously, I mean, I can't in good conscience recommend the whole thing. I might just send you the name of that episode, just so you can just to see if by the end of it you are not completely fucking flummoxed as to what the fuck you just saw.
Surely there must be a moment where they do a 3 Doctors and the Queen travels around.
I'm praying for it.
They get all 3 queens in one scene uniting to fight some terrible enemy.
At this stage, I would not fucking put it past this show, man. I would not put it past this show.
Speaking of, that's what I've been watching, by the way, the 60th anniversary special.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. It's bonkers. It's great fun.
Yeah.
Nothing makes a great deal of sense. I just don't care. I just don't care. There is this. Someone said to me on Twitter that Russell T Davies has no notion of restraint, and I'm like, yes, that's true. Correct. That is absolutely 100% correct, and it's great.
I'm there for it.
I was sort of left with the idea that I really wish Russell T Davies wrote the first 3/4 of each episode, then they just let somebody else write the end.
Somebody say and close it out,
So let's just have a decent end. But my son loved it, and that's what matters. So
honestly, I had such fun with them. I mean, it's different tonally. Like it's got none of the seriousness and the weight that previous seasons have had. It's just balmy carnivalesque nonsense, and it's so much fun. Also, trolling hard, which I love, and trolling all the right people as well. And
have you watched
all of the right people
that he's done? The InVision commentary, where he reveals some interesting stuff. Two things, which I mean, they're not spoilers because he clearly intends this information to be out there.
Yep.
The first is that when the toy maker says my legions are coming, he means it literally. He has decided that it's fun when the Doctor fights gods.
Oh, Jesus
Brilliant.
Christ.
Brilliant.
And he leans over to Phil Collins and he says, we're on our 3rd now, aren't we, in season 2? He says, 3, more coming.
Brilliant. I'm here for it. I think it does work. That dynamic does work. The Toymaker was amazing. He was such a great villain.
There are at least 3 more coming, and they're the gods of different stuff.
Nice.
Brilliant.
So, and the other thing he says is that, as far as he's concerned, when the Toymaker regenerated this Doctor, he retroactively bioregenerated all previous Doctors.
Oh,
fuck.
And,
fantastic! So there's a multiverse, right?
And no, it's not. It's not a multiverse. It's just that time has retrospectively been changed, and all the Doctors have now bifurcated, which means that the Doctors that appeared in Tales of the TARDIS are the bioregenerated versions of those incarnations.
Right.
Fantastic.
They're legitimate. And it means that if he wants to bring back, he specifically says, if I decide I want to bring back Sylvester McCoy, I don't need to explain why he's older now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's brilliant.
This is great.
I sense the horrible hand of franchises at work. There was another.
Well, to be fair, look back. I mean, of all of them, I mean, the only ones that could possibly come back are the new Doctors.
Yes,
I want my fucking McGann series, man. If this gets me my McGann series,
I think that's what he's doing. I think he's saying,
I hope so.
Absolutely,
I feel really strongly that once a character does not stay dead, you've removed the drama, and it bugs me no end.
I don't know. You see, I still think regeneration has an incredible emotional kick to it. I think it's
regeneration does, but that it's copping out.
I mean, it's not like he can bring back any of the first four. Davison's probably a bit old. Sylvester and Colin
totally out because he doesn't want to come back.
Eccleston was asked on stage last week, what would it take for you to come back? He says, fire Russell Davis, fire Jane Tranter, fire Julie Gardner, fire Phil Collins, and Billy Piper's sitting next to him looking really uncomfortable.
Really uncomfortable,
Capaldi has said he will never come back under any circumstances. Tennant,
which is a shame because he was the best, right?
You don't need to explain Matt Smith because he gets older.
Yeah.
So the only reason for doing it is to bring back McGann.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, he fucking deserves it because he got the shittiest end of the shittiest stick. He really did. So, yeah.
I also loved the little detail, the Celestial Toymaker saying, I made that jigsaw out of your history. Did you like it?
Yes.
And it's like, so all of the any contradictions, any plot problems, anything that Russell T Davies doesn't want to deal with, like maybe the timeless child bullshit.
Oh no, he dealt with that. That's front and center.
He's kind of already, he's dealt with it. Right, it's done. It's brilliant.
In a purely what interests me, and I'm not a big fan of the pantomime side of it, and it was very pantomime. The middle episode I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great.
I loved that one.
Really good, and it didn't need the budget it had, which is how you can tell it's good. Where the other two,
the spectacle was part of the point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the other two, which I don't have an issue with, but
I was really struggling with the idea of a game of catch. I
think what I loved about the game of catch was how shitty the resolution was. Like, he just fucking missed. There was no big clever smart ass trick. He just fucking missed. It's like, wow,
missed.
Wow, that's what we're doing now. Is it okay? All right.
I like to imagine all the other puppets that the Toymaster brought out. Ace, she was killed when you fought the threshold in Notting Hill. Actually, Ace has 7 different timelines. Well, that's all right then.
What actually really bugged me about that whole episode was for me, the proper Doctor Who scariest thing in it was that puppet we saw at the beginning, and they kind of just got rid of it.
I gotta say, for me, the scariest moment in the whole episode by quite a large margin was when the Toymaster burst that guard and turned him into a bunch of bouncy balls. And the woman caught one and it screamed at her. That genuinely put the shits up me so badly.
Yeah,
because it sounds like there's at least 2 obsessives here. Do you have ideas of who picked up the Master as a gold tooth?
Oh, right. No idea. No idea. I was even toying with the idea. Now that all the timelines and everything have gone haywire, could have been Missy, right? Could have been anyone.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anyone.
Yeah, who knows?
I just like the fact that they seem to be hovering over London somehow.
Just floating there, waiting to pick the tooth up.
So no, I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. Once I got that he was trolling and trolling hard, I was like, yeah, totally in for it.
Melanie.
Mel.
Tennant's reaction when he sees her is so,
it's so
delightful.
Cute. You know what? I had such a weird circumstantial thing because that day I watched that. I think I talked about it in the last show, so apologies for those of you who heard that. But like, I'd been doing some work in my father's house, clearing out a load of stuff. And one of the things he did was he kept every theatre program to every show he ever went to. So that's a lot of cardboard boxes to go through. And I kept the ones where there were shows that I'd been to with him because I wanted to keep them as memories. And I found one, and I showed it to Kiddo, and I was like, "Hey, look at this! And it was Peter Pan, and it was Bonnie Langford as Peter Pan in the late 80s, which it was probably the first pantomime I was taken to. Actually, I was quite young, and I showed it to Kiddo, and Kiddo was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Right, yeah." Doctor Who. So by and that evening we watched. So by sheer fluke, she couldn't have been better prepped for that. And then obviously it took me a couple of seconds to regain the power of speech. I said, "That's her. That's who I was talking about. That's her."
Brilliant.
Yeah, that was just bonkers. Like, really lovely little bit of happenstance. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was cool having Mel back. Again. There's a lot of a lot of people got kind of shortchanged by some of what happened in the last few years of Who before it went on hiatus. So it's always good to see. I love it when the nerds have taken over the asylum and we get to try and make some of that stuff right. I think that's very cool.
That's very cool. I love Neil Patrick Harris. I've always loved him since he played Count Olaf in a series of unfortunate events where he was fantastic.
Was that series?
The series, yeah.
Oh, just
so
brilliant.
Good. My God, it's compulsively brilliant, like all the way through. And here he's just kind of channeling that same energy. It's just great fun.
He was my officially designated same-sex crush.
Nice.
Until I saw Dr. Culber on Star Trek Discovery.
But I mean, and talking. I mean, that's not going to get a better segue than this either. I mean, Scott, you and I discussed this last time, but Shooty, like, holy God!
Oh wow!
Amazing!
Holy God!
Amazing!
I said to Scott last time. I don't ever remember being sold that fast on a new Doctor.
No, he's just there, isn't he? He's in it.
Amazing.
He's in the moment and just owning it, right?
Yeah. Did you watch Ahsoka up until the point when what's his face from Rebels appeared? The boy they were looking for.
Yes.
No, I drifted out.
Yes. Because if you did the minute, what is the name of that character, Scott? Ezra, the minute he appears on screen, it is just like this charisma bomb goes off.
So fucking perfect.
Yeah, just someone who just has whatever it is. There's just something about it. And that's what he got from the Cootie Cat. Just like, you're brilliant.
Absolutely stunning. Immediately in, immediately in.
Yeah, no, I just fucking hell. So
I cannot wait to see what. I mean, it's clear from the no, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's clear from the trailer that like Russell T is really going like, you know what? Fuck it. This is for us. It's for the queer community, right? It's for my lot. And it's in the trailers you've got the Doctor in a gay club, just having a grand old time. It's like kilt. I am so up for this. This is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to see what he does.
Did you see there were quite a few Americans on social media doing the whole woke thing and saying, "Oh, look, this is what we get now. We get the Doctor in the skirt, just getting schooled by Scottish people." Just like, no, that's not what that is, mate.
And ironically, that's kind of what Russell T is obviously going for.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the people he's trolling. I mean, like, look what he's done. Just in these 3 episodes, you've had discussions on gender pronouns. You've got like non-binary characters. You've got the same non-binary character who is also vegetarian, which would also wind them up.
I'm still going to say
explicitly gay Doctor, by the way. Tennant's Doctor admitting that he in this regeneration is either gay or bi, you know?
Yep.
And then Donna
Brilliant.
immediately says, well, it was never far from the surface, was
And
it?
that is so true, by the way. I know Tennant is ostensibly straight, but I'm telling you, the way he plays the Doctor, there's a heady queerness to him.
Just very quickly, this episode's not going to go out for months, is it, Kit? Quite a while.
All right. Thanks for the dig. Look, I'm working on it.
No, it's
all
just
right?
that I was going to just very quickly say that I have had an absolute moment of joy today. 'Cause I had some friends around, the boy in the home cinema system set up, and we watched Muppets Christmas Carol, which is the
Glorious.
greatest Christmas movie.
Now, did you watch it on
all time.
Disney?
Yes.
Because they've restored Michael Caine's song "When Love Is Gone" to its rightful place.
Yeah, I thought you always sang that.
No,
I thought it was the song.
no,
the
it
song
was
that
lost.
Kermit's family sang around the table that was restored, because that was definitely not in the versions I've seen before.
No, that was always there.
I think you're wrong, Scott, because we have the Muppets Christmas Carol soundtrack playing in our car, and it's got When Love Is Gone with Michael Caine.
Oh, it's always been on the soundtrack. It's just never been in the film.
But it doesn't have the Kermit's family singing a song around the table.
Well, I'm sorry. It's When Love Is Gone that was restored.
Isn't that weird?
It was supposed to be lost, and they found the film about 18 months ago, and they immediately cut it back in.
Was it in
It's
Michael Caine's house?
like
Had Michael Caine hidden it?
it's just how seriously Michael Caine takes it all. I love it. You know, he's playing it like deathly serious. It's like he's in a stage play. You know.
I honestly think it's great. It's Kane's best performance. It's not the best film he's in, although it's close to. Yeah. And he's given many great performances. But the temptation to just even the tiniest wink towards the audience would have ruined it. And
never comes through. No,
he doesn't indulge it at all. Second.
Not at all.
Two Muppet films that really work, and they work for polar opposite reasons. And Christmas Carol really works because Michael Caine absolutely plays it seriously. And Muppet Treasure Island works because Tim Curry plays it as if he's a Muppet.
That's true.
Absolutely true.
And that's what and if I could get one wish made, any film wish, I would have Muppet Pride and Prejudice. Because it would be the greatest thing ever.
Oh my God.
I would have Animal play Lydia, the girl that runs, and I would have Beaker play Mr. Collins, the priest, and I would have Piggy be Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Brilliant. Muppet Wuthering Heights. That'd be awesome.
You have to be really careful because there's people always say, "Oh, we should have Muppet Die Hard," and it doesn't work because the whole thing about Muppets is they're always nice.
Yes.
so there are very certain films it works with and not others. Like you can't have a shooty Muppet film because they don't kill people because they're Muppets.
No.
I think you could do
I have no chill about this, so don't.
I think you could do like Muppet Trading Places because I think you could Statler and Waldorf could be the old rich white guys. Yeah. That would work.
Yeah, and that's essentially kind of a good-hearted film.
True. That's a good Christmas movie. Yeah. I think that's a better Christmas movie than Muppet Christmas Carol, to be honest with you. But there you go.
You're mental. But you could do wrong. Muppet Aliens. That
won't work. So's Gremlins. I mean,
Gremlins is amazing.
Gremlins is awesome. Yeah, it's a great film.
Gremlins 2 is a better film.
It's a better film. Piece of work.
Yeah. It is a better film, but they're both fantastic.
Yeah.
Little slice of Christmas magic there. Cool. Well, listen, George, thanks so much for doing our first ever crossover episode.
It's been my absolute pleasure. It's been great fun.
Has George Has George been in the sandwich shop?
No, because George's previous appearance predates. RJ, can you see a glow on the horizon?
I can see it.
I definitely can.
That's a weird coincidence.
It's like Christmas lights.
It's sort of like Christmas lights, but there's a bit more neon, I think, as it's getting closer.
Yeah.
Oh, there's decorations. They're new.
Yeah, there's some sort of Christmas display on it, but I can make out words.
Yeah. So can I. But I've left my monocle in the other room. Can you read what it says?
Can you read it, Scott?
The Sandwich Shop of Doom? Dreams.
Oh, God, that was close. The Sandwich Shop of Dreams. God, that was nearly very scary.
Yeah, that's where all the raps go.
Yeah, that's true.
And all the British roll sandwiches from the 70s.
So, George, before we let you go, the Sandwich Shop of Dreams has arrived, and therefore we must make an offering. And when I say we, I actually mean you.
Oh,
RJ,
okay.
do you want to explain how this works?
Yeah, this was a concept that I came up with quite a while ago that everyone laughed at me for, and it's turned out to be really good. Basically,
We laughed with you, RJ. We laughed with you.
You've never laughed with me.
Speak for yourself, kid. Speak for yourself.
That's just anyone that's listened to more than one episode is just standing there and shouting fire or whatever they're listening to. Anyway, the Sandwich Shop of Dreams is we really thought this would just like run once and then we'd be like, that was a stupid idea. But actually, it turns out people get really into it.
Yeah.
We want to know, Kit, can you explain? My cat is about to throw up on the sofa. So, Kit, you can explain it to
that old excuse.
Hang on.
So he comes out with the concept, but he can't actually deliver the explanation. So here's the thing, George, right?
Okay.
What we need for this, the Sandwich Shop of Dreams contains individual sandwiches that have been brought into it by the guests. And the sandwich we want from you is not your favourite kind of sandwich.
Okay.
What we want is the best sandwich you ever ate. So it might also be a favourite sandwich, but it might not be. It might be because of the circumstances under which you ate it that make it your favourite sandwich eating experience. And it should be obvious at this point. No, a hamburger's not a fucking sandwich, and neither's a wrap, so don't fucking ask.
Okay.
No,
I can actually. I know the best sandwich I ever ate.
There you go. You know what's great about this, George? Everyone does.
Yeah,
Everyone fucking does.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It wasn't a good sandwich at all. In fact, it was shite. It was a terrible sandwich. But it was the first thing that I'd eaten in almost a week.
Wow.
It was when I came back. I went to a friend of mine and I went to we went to Marrakesh when we were 21, and I came down with something really bad. I was ill the whole time, and I mean like so ill. And I couldn't eat. I literally couldn't eat. I felt so terrible. And I remember getting back to the UK via plane. We landed in Heathrow, and just feeling for a moment the first pang of hunger that I'd felt in over a week, and purchasing a really shitty, awful, and it was just a ham and cheese sandwich. It was nothing. It was absolutely nothing, but it tasted so good because being home after being so ill and being being elsewhere and not knowing what to do, feeling terrible, feeling solid for the first time, in such a long time, and feeling like I was getting better. Right. It felt so good. It felt so good. That was in Heathrow.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So weird. That's got to be one of the best.
To say you can't put in like a basic awful sandwich that you admit yourself was terrible. But
it was shit. Yeah, it was terrible.
That's not the point of the Sandwich Shop of Dreams.
Okay.
No, because it takes the feeling of that sandwich.
That's right. And I could see the doors of the sandwich shop have opened welcomingly, invitingly. And I can see the ham and cheese sandwich floating through the doors with not an issue at all. That ham and cheese from Heathrow is taken pride of place in the front in the front display case there. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's gone on the Sandwich Shop of Dreams advent calendar.
It has.
Which is a marketing opportunity.
We need to have done this 24 times by next year in order to make that happen, but I think we could do it.
That's a great idea.
We could do it.
It's a great idea.
It is.
Are we going to do music then quickly?
I think we could do music. Before we do those, super quick, George, I just want to tell you, because there's no reason on earth you would have heard the episode, especially as I haven't released it yet. But when Jim, our mutual friend Jim, did the Sandwich Shop of Dreams, his Sandwich Shop of Dreams was a bacon sandwich. And the reason that was his Sandwich Shop of Dreams was because he'd been dating this girl for about 9 months when he was at university, and she was vegetarian, and he'd gone vegetarian for her, and he'd found out she cheated on him. And he'd been heartbroken, and he came back on the train in tears, and the first thing he did when he got off the train was bought a bacon sandwich.
Yeah, I love it.
I never tell you what happened after I broke up with my last girlfriend, and she was very, very strictly vegetarian, and I had been for all that time. We broke up, and I had to go and live in a hotel for 2 weeks because it was during lockdown.
Right.
And
good timing, yeah.
I ate every single different type of meat that I could on takeout. First night I had a kebab. Next night I had beef curry. I mean, seriously,
Nice.
I ate meat until I was sweating meat.
It's meat and vengeance, isn't it? That's
it.
the
There you
thing,
go.
right? Vengeance is the best seasoning, yeah.
Jim's Vengeance Bacon Sandwich. That's one of my all-time
Vengeance
favourites.
Bacon, Jim's Vengeance Bacon Sandwich.
Yeah.
That's a t-shirt.
There you go. Anyway, that's our Jim. We love him.
Wow.
And on that bombshell, I think we should move to music, RJ, because Christ, it's late. You fuckers could talk about rabbits for hours.
Yeah,
Rabbit. Let's. Okay, who's going to choose Chaz and Dave? Rabbit.
Sadly, I think it may count as a novelty record, which
Yeah. But, Bright Eyes does it? So someone can choose that.
Yeah, but they'd better fucking not. Right, who's going first?
Actually, I'd promised George that you were going to give us a chorus of it because you're the only one that can sing. I'm sorry, RJ. Yet another broken promise from RJ. How many times citizens will he let us down like this?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to share Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit released a new single this week. It is a cover of a song by Cryin' and Drivin' called Look What You've Done to Your Brother, and it's fab.
Fucking A, man. Jason Isbell's just, what a legend.
Have you noticed he's got his teeth fixed?
I didn't notice that, no. I didn't notice his teeth were wonky, though, to be fair. But,
spectacularly
were
wonky.
They? Okay, fair enough.
He's got like proper Hollywood teeth now.
Proper Nashville teeth, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's making that Nashville money, and he's... Yeah! But he's earned it, Christ.
Yeah.
Cool. I've got one, actually. I'm going to pick one. So, one of the albums I went back and listened to recently was Decoration Day by the Drive-By Truckers, which I think may be my favourite of their records. It's the first one to feature Jason Isbell, and it's just spectacular. They got a bit of commercial success with their previous album, which was called Southern Rock Opera, and as a result of which they managed to do not just a tour of the southern states, but a tour of the entire United States. So with that step up, they were getting on the way. And then of course what happened was two of them got divorced. They got a new singer-songwriter join, and I think one of the friends of the two previous singer-songwriters shot himself in the head a few months before they started recording. So the album is just so angry and twisted and fucked up and like, what the hell is happening? There's two amazing divorce songs on there, including one called I Know Your Daddy Hates Me, which is just fucking glorious. And two songs about the friend's suicide, one called When the Pin Hits the Shell and the other one called Do It Yourself, both of which are spectacular songs. And the two Isbell tracks that are on there are two of Isbell's finest. When Scott was kind enough to take me to see Isbell last year, he played Decoration Day as the final encore, and I fucking cried. It's just a perfect piece of music. But I'm not picking any of those. The song I'm picking is the second track on the album, which is written by Patterson Hood, who I think is just a criminally underrated songwriter, especially in that band, because the other two are so fucking good. But you know what? Patterson Hood's fucking good as well. And one of the best short stories in a song you'll ever fucking hear, and a very strong anti-capitalist anthem in this day and age, I think it's also is called Sinkhole. And that is my pick. I think it's a fucking glorious song. And it's just the efficiency of the storytelling in it is mind-blowing, and it's a short horror story, really. It's fucking brilliant.
George, do you want to go next, or shall I?
Brilliant, sure. I'll yeah, absolutely. I've actually been revisiting a lot of the Gorillaz albums from the mid 2000s, the really angry activist stuff that they did about the war on terror and the Iraq and Afghanistan invasions. Demon Days, in particular, that is a fucking angry album. That is activist. In particular, the tracks November Has Come and El Mañana. So friggin' angry. Unbelievable. It's just the kind of thing that you don't... I sound like an old fucking man, but you don't necessarily hear in a mainstream album these days.
Right.
So which one? So pick one.
Which one's your pick?
Oh, okay. I'll go for El Mañana.
Okay. Cool.
I'm glad George said angry, because I came across a grindcore band, female-fronted grindcore band today, who I thought were absolutely fantastic, and they had a really odd name, so I wrote it down in my notebook. And when I got up, because the cat was going to throw up, it didn't throw up, by the way. It just went and hid under the Christmas tree where I couldn't get at it. It was purely to spite me. I spilled water on my notebook, and it's an invisible notebook, and I can't read the name of the band anymore. So
your cat fucking hates you, man. I don't know how to break this to you.
Yeah, I know it hates me. It's always hated me. I love him so much. He's a perfect cat. He's like the cat, exactly what he should be. But he loves me for 10 minutes in the morning when he rides around on my shoulders.
That's true. I've seen this. I can confirm. Yeah. He spends 10 minutes being parrot cat, and then when he's bored, he just bites RJ on the ear until he lets him go. Fucking amazing.
He's awful.
He is.
I adore him.
All right, I had enough of that, Dad. I'm going to bite you on the ear now. You can put me down. Thank you.
But instead, I'm putting the video in the chat. I'm going for a song called Blend by a folk artist called Aldous Harding, who is genuinely weird. The song was kind of like an oddly dark acoustic thing with her singing, and it's a tiny bit sinister, but not very sinister. It's a really good song, but please watch the video, because what she does to this oddly dark bit of acoustic folk is dance like a stripper to it, and it is genuinely one of the most unsettling things I've ever seen. It's really weird. Just the whole juxtaposition of it is and there's something weird about her that some of her other videos are even more mental. But Blend by Aldous Harding. It's a banging song, really creepy video.
Excellent.
Cool. Okay.
Well, there you go. And on that creepy, weird bombshell from RJ, I mean, who would have predicted? I just want to say briefly, I think, this is the last episode of the year, obviously Writeopolis will be returning next season. We are in beginning conversations with a couple of citizens about trying to get things slightly more organised next time. So, but I do want to say thank you for bearing with us all. I mean, especially me, but all of us to one degree or another, I think, have had our ups and downs this year. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. I'm not too sorry to see the back of 2023. I have to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not going to pretend that it's been unmitigated misery. There have been some good moments and some high points, but I think when the best thing you can think about when you look back on a year is, well, I fucking made it through that somehow. It's not really a vintage year, is it? Let's be honest. So, I just want to say, in one of my very few moments of being sincere on this show, like, this has been one of the few bright spots for me, and consistent bright spots. It was particularly painful to be going through a period when I couldn't do it for various reasons, although there were excellent reasons for not being able to do it. I cannot tell you what a joy it was to be able to come back here and to be able to continue, and your patience, citizens, especially as we've been navigating various ridiculous fucking issues all year, has been enormously appreciated, and I'm very, very grateful. I'm grateful to continue to have this space to hang out with my friends and hang out and just chat shit and feel like I belong and am welcome. So thank you all so much, and I'm really fucking looking forward to doing more of this next year.
So
we'll see you. I said it better myself.
Yeah, we'll see you next year at Writeopolis, sponsored by Kong is the Best.
Oh yes, god damn,
he's going down fighting.
Yeah, I'm only saying it because you've had a shitty year, Kate.
What are you talking about? It's been the best fucking year of my life, RJ. Just on that moment, you just turned the whole thing around. Best year ever. RJ finally admits it. Wonderful.
People should know I've spent most of the day being violently ill, so I'm not myself.
Oh yeah, the excuses are already. It's too late. It's there. I've got it on tape. It's going to be the intro of every episode from now on. I'm just. In fact, I'm going to clip that. That's my fucking ringtone from now on.
George is going to listen back to this episode, and it's just going to be 2 hours of that, just loop.
That's right. Yeah. Well, fucking hell.
Wow.
All right, I'm not going to top that moment. That was wonderful. Thank you all so much. George, thanks for agreeing to join us for this crossover. Wonderful stuff.
Absolute pleasure, as always. Thanks for having me.
Everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, George.
Have a good one.
See you next year.
Yeah.
Bye.